24-year-old Nicole Johnson is suing her neighbor, 23-year-old Sally Jones, for the cost to fix her car. Nicole claims Sally's son, 5-year-old Darian, scratched her paint job with rocks.
Miss Johnson, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it, and if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age, and why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Twyman.
And what's her name?
Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
There you go. Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. You know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here? And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Timon.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. Michaela came and told you about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you about it?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay, she's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble, a handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell the judge, okay?
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
1.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
I don't know.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Hmm?
Gray.
She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones, and show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Okay. Go and step down. I have a feeling he did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there. Made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. She didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, how big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car, and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it, that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it on the weekend, not all of it, and I work about 45 minutes from home.
Okay.
So I have a rental car receipt for $182.04.
$422, that's half. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $422. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Smart but a handful, Miss Jones.
Thank you.
Dawn Chunt is suing her son, 21-year-old Scott King, for a loan to purchase a 1999 Chevy Cavalier. Scott claims the car was a gift.
Miss Chunt, this young man is your son,
Yes, ma'am.
and your complaint alleges that he owes you a balance of a car loan.
Correct.
And your son says the car was a gift to him.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Did I ask you a question?
No, I'm sorry.
And while he helped you financially for a while, had nothing to do with this being a loan, it was always a gift, and when he had his expenses got to a point where he could no longer help you out, he just stopped. Is that...
That's
now
correct.
I'm looking at you.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Do you want me to yell at him?
Please.
Who is this person?
This is my son's ex-girlfriend, Jessica.
And who is this?
This is my current girlfriend, Kelly.
Is she here for any particular reason?
More or less, she was witness to an instance over the summer where I actually offered a reconciliation to my mother at a festival downtown. And basically, my mother told me that she was in the process of filing bankruptcy and that my help was too late, and basically shrugged me off and walked away. So at that point, I felt like I was no longer obligated to even try to reconcile or help out the situation at all.
Let me understand this. I'm going to put what you just said to me, because I know that one thing you're going to learn as you get older, you have to think about what you say before you say it.
Absolutely.
What you just said to me was, this young lady is a witness to something that happened recently. When you said to your mother, listen, let me try to work this out with you, you know, with the car, and she shrugged you off and said to you, I filed bankruptcy and your help is too late.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Well, that's, Mr. King sort of acknowledges that this was a loan.
Well,
Don't well me.
I'm sorry.
That sort of acknowledges that you had some responsibility in your mother's financial situation. You gotta keep it simple. All right, when was the car purchased, Miss Shant?
August of 2002.
How old are you?
21.
How old were you when the car was purchased?
I believe 19, Your Honor.
How much were the car payments each month, Mr. King?
$150 maybe, Your Honor? I'm not sure.
Well, you were making the car payments for a while.
Yes, correct. It was a long time ago.
Okay. You were making the car payments for a while, so when you say it was $150 a month, was it $150 or $152, $156?
Couldn't tell you, Your Honor. Don't have my checkbooks from back then anymore.
How many years did you make the payments?
I'd probably say 12 months.
When you stopped making the payments, did you notify your mother?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I found out 3 months after the fact that he stopped making the payments that from the finance company contacted me and said the payments had ceased.
You have the letter?
payment was $177.26.
You have the letter from the
No, they
finance-
didn't. They just called me and I made a payment over the phone. He made $3,000 worth of the $6,000 loan.
Well, that's a pretty good track record, Mr. King, for somebody who got a gift. See what I mean?
Yes, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dawn Chount says her son, Scott King, owes for the balance on a car. Dawn claims Scott traded the car in and kept the money.
And did you file a bankruptcy last summer?
Absolutely not. I've never filed bankruptcy. I have no intention of ever filing bankruptcy.
What kind of work do you do, Ms. Sharp?
I'm an administrative assistant for a management firm.
Who's driving the car?
He's traded that car in on a new vehicle. Yes, ma'am. I have. He got $4,000 on a trade-in, and instead of paying off the loan, he decided to use that $4,000 to purchase his brand new Focus that he's now driving. And they gave him $4,000 for the car, and he used it as a down payment.
Yeah. I mean, you're just going to stand there and look foolish?
No, Your Honor. I mean, what do you want me to say about that? Yes, I traded the vehicle in.
Well, if you traded the vehicle in, who did you expect to make the payments after you traded the vehicle in?
When I was living rent-free, I had no issues helping out with the bills. I was working full-time, going to school full-time.
Helping out with the bills is a different story, Mr. King. Helping out with the bills means, Mom, he has $200 or $300 for rent, or he has $100 a week for rent. That's a different helping out with the bills. You made the car payment directly.
It was sporadically. It was, you know, a chunk here, a chunk there.
Well, that's because you were young and stupid. That's not because that's the way people do business.
I know that now, Your Honor.
How much is left owing on the car?
Approximately $3,000.
Let me see.
I'm sorry, $2,000 is my balance right now. Here's my current statement from the finance company showing the balance as of today.
And I'm amazed that you traded this car in, that they let you trade
Well,
the
there
car
was
in
no
with a
lien
lien.
because it was a personal loan.
May I say something, Your Honor?
It was a personal loan? What do you mean it was a personal loan?
It was a signature loan. There was no collateral.
What do you want to say?
Well, this wasn't financing that I requested. It wasn't I mean, I was at the age where I could require credit myself. This is a loan that she got, and she acted sporadically like, let's do this now, let's get this now, you need this. I wasn't prepared to make this transaction, and it was basically thrown upon me out of need, out of necessity, from her standpoint, that we needed a better ride for me and Jessica to go to college and back and whatnot. And it happened within a day. We got the check in the mail, and the next day I had a car. It was like that quick. And I mean, I don't agree that I didn't ask for the loan, I didn't want the loan. I don't even consider it a loan. It wasn't something that I was part of at all. It was something that was thrown upon me, and now I felt like I was being held accountable, like it being dangled over my head from that point forward. After we got rid of my escort, I had no vehicle. So we had the Cavalier, and I was like, make the payment or you lose it. And I was like, this isn't something I ever wanted or wanted to acquire. If I had it my way, I would have still had my old vehicle, and everything would have been okay from that point forward. I don't feel like this was any kind of my decision, and it was forced upon me.
Was he a difficult pregnancy?
Actually, ma'am.
No, I'm asking you, was he a difficult?
No, he was all of my children were very easy. And he was a very cooperative. I was working, got it from the dealer. He was going on a test drive. Mom, I really want this car. I tried talking him out of purchasing this car.
Listen to me.
That's not true.
No 19-year-old or 18-year-old says... 18 says, Mom, I don't want this nice car. I want to drive the piece of junk that I'm driving. I'm really happy driving around with my girlfriend in this piece of junk that doesn't start all the time.
Absolutely.
Please, I don't even want to think about a nice car. Being 18, I want to take the bus, take the train. With my,
no, ma'am.
That's how we want to go out.
You wouldn't take a bus to school, to high school. No.
I just want to know whether you had any clue in utero that he was going to develop into this.
No, the last thing I want to do is be here against my son.
If I did?
Let me tell you.
Excuse me?
The last place I want to be is here with my son.
I don't blame you.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't blame you.
I just can't afford to make payments on something that is non-existent.
Well, I think that he's got some nerve trading it in. That really suggests to me, I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
That really suggests to me that he is really totally an amoral person. He could have traded it in for something and given you the money.
That would have been really nice.
That would have been, and not put you in a hole. Because according to Freshmouth over here, he at least thought that you were filing for bankruptcy. He at least thought that you were in financial difficulty. And one of the reasons that you were in financial difficulty was because of his actions. Because according to him, new girlfriend over here, whose purpose in being here is to tell me about this conversation that she heard about looking forward to helping his mother, right? Isn't that what he said you were going to tell me?
Right.
Right. means that he understood that his conduct created a negative situation for you.
And I do admit that.
Oh, get over it.
Ma'am, can I give Scott the title to his Focus? Because it's at my house.
No, I don't want you to give him anything.
This is his title for his car that he's driving now.
Listen to me. I don't want you to give him anything.
Okay.
He's got to understand what aggravation is. And if he doesn't have a title to the car that he's driving now because it came to your house, let him go to motor vehicles, fill out all the paperwork that he has a lost title, that the title never arrived, that he moved. He'll fill out an affidavit that he never got the title because he no longer lives in your house. Let him do something. Do you understand?
I understand.
He has to experience some pain. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's all.
25-year-old Anna Highmark is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eddie Rigsby Jr., for the return of her belongings. Anna says Eddie threw her out of their apartment and then disposed of her property.
Ms. Highmark, what was your relationship with the defendant when you moved in with him?
We were friends. At that point, there was no other involvement.
According to what I'm reading between the lines, you moved in with him and relocated from one jurisdiction to another.
Correct.
And you traveled with a child.
Correct.
How old is your child?
She's 6.
Where had you been living?
In South Dakota, in Madison.
And where did you move to, sir?
Quad Cities, Illinois.
Who did you know in Illinois?
I knew nobody, but my apartment had flooded, and I had to move either way, and I disliked South Dakota tremendously, and
Who lives in South Dakota?
all of my family.
So you were going to Illinois with a 6-year-old child, with someone with whom you were no longer romantically involved, just a friend, leaving your entire family and support system there. Did you have a job?
Within a week of moving to Illinois.
You found the job?
Yes.
What were you doing?
Working at the Army base.
Are you still there?
No, that was a temporary job. I've worked a series of temporary jobs since then.
Are you still in Illinois?
I'm in Iowa, across the border.
Who were you living with?
A friend.
Male friend or female friend?
Male.
When did you meet him?
When I moved to Illinois, about 3 weeks after.
And your daughter? Where's her father?
Her father is in South Dakota still.
Who's this?
This is my daughter's grandmother.
Her father's mother.
Yes.
Is your claim that when you moved with Mr. Rigsby to Illinois, you moved into his apartment and they threw you out of the apartment and discarded your property?
My claim is that we got an apartment together where I was going to stay for about 2 months.
Was there a lease on the apartment?
In his name.
So then you didn't get an apartment together. He got an apartment.
With my money as well.
So what happened?
The day we arrived in Illinois, he began threatening me, saying he was going to have random women come over and beat me up, and when I was at work, he was going to throw my things out on the street, and a variety of things like that. And he got into my jewelry box a number of times, and 3 days in a row, I called and politely asked him not to dig in my jewelry box anymore.
Where did you call him?
On his cell phone, which I had gotten for him.
Why didn't you have this discussion when he came home? Was he not staying at home?
No, he wasn't.
When did he stop staying in his apartment?
The day he got it.
Why?
Because we didn't get along.
Where was he living?
Random women's apartments.
Who paid the rent?
It was split 50-50. There was 2 months free rent. There was a $450 deposit. I put down $200 on the deposit, and he put down $250.
So the first 2 months that you were there was no rent?
I was only there for 26 days.
So what you're telling me is you paid $200 to live there for 26 days?
Correct.
Okay. When did you come home and take her stuff and put it out at the curb, sir?
She was there for about a month. It was 2 days before the month was up. I put it on the curb. It wasn't on the curb. It was in front of the door. And this was like, I put most of it out there.
You told me curb. You wrote curb,
I meant,
sir.
Well, door, I meant.
Well, tell me the circumstances surrounding you doing
Let's see,
that.
I put all the little stuff out first. Hoping she'd come back because I didn't want to put the TV. She had a little 1980s TV and a little bamboo chair, and I didn't want to put it out there because I didn't want to steal it. Month and a half goes by, she still hasn't been there.
Are you telling me that she left the apartment?
She called the cops on me. After the month was up, I told her she'd stay there 1 month. I said, you have to get your own place. My landlord didn't even want her there. She hit my garage. She almost hit my landlord, driving around.
A month is gone. And what happened?
I told her she had to go.
So did she leave?
Yeah, she called the cops on me.
She called the cops on you?
He said I was an intruder in my own home.
Okay. After the police arrived, what happened, Miss Highmark?
They said that there was no reason to arrest him.
There wasn't.
Besides his threatening me and bringing over people saying they were going to beat me up and taking
Miss Highmark,
things
get
of
over
mine.
it. I don't believe you, period. Keep going. So you
And
called
so
the police,
I called
and
the
the police
police.
said the lease to the apartment is in his name. They're not going to put him out. And what did you do?
I said I need a safe place to go. And they put me in a domestic violence shelter.
Perfect. So you left that night?
Yes.
When did you come back for your things?
Every day for the next month and a half.
Tell me how you went back.
I went back looking for his vehicle. His vehicle was not there, he was not there. So I left the note on his door saying I would be there the following Sunday at 2 p.m. I showed up and he was not there. So I went over there consistently every day looking for his vehicle until finally one day I did find his vehicle there and called the police and had them knock on the door and ask if I could retrieve my belongings. And he said he no longer had them, although they were visible behind him.
What was visible behind him? A pot, you said.
There's crock pot, knife blocks, some dishes.
You mean you saw that from the door where you were standing?
What was in the kitchen I could see, because it was the kitchen door.
Okay.
This is the list right here of items.
Let me take a look at it.
Those are the list of things that I was not able to retrieve.
Where's her cat?
The
You didn't
cat-
take your cat?
I was going to a domestic violence shelter. I was not able to.
Did you see her cat?
No. That cat ran around outside all the time, and that cat was never around. She lost that cat the first 2 weeks she was there. She couldn't find it. I don't have no cat, and if I...
The cat was still there. The next day when I returned, the only belongings that he had put out on the curb were the empty litter box with the scoop and the cat food and a folder of papers.
So yeah, so if I got a cat just running around doing this thing all
that's
over my
ridiculous.
house.
Maybe worth $1,000. Maybe, if I believe it's all there. $5,000 never happened. Discard her stuff. You can't put it out. Do you understand?
See, this is the thing. She knew I worked during the day. She knew when to come and get her stuff. I work anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. She knows, come at night.
Listen to me. You go to a local police precinct and you say, listen, this is what I have. I have all this junk, because all this is
Junk.
junk.
Yeah.
But it's her junk. It's not your junk. So you don't have the right to throw out her junk. You understand that?
I understand.
It's annoying. She was annoying. I get it. But you have no right to dump her stuff. You have to preserve it for a reasonable period of time, considering the fact that she was removed from the house with her child, limited window of time. So you have to take reasonable care, especially since she did pay $200 towards the rent, right?
Yeah.
None of this stuff is worth, according to you, $6,574. Not on a great day is this.
I don't know what
worth
she's got up there,
$6,000.
but what she left was a 1980s TV,
Yeah.
a piece of junk bamboo chair, some CDs, and a
200
crock
CDs.
pot.
What'd you do with her CDs?
All this stuff was gone. I don't even listen to the CDs. Not even the type of music I listen to.
Fine. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Step out.
Carrie Van Druff is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brian Dodds, for money loaned when he fell on hard times. Brian says Carrie offered him the money.
Bert, I have a couple of questions for you. Would you say that 100 times as many women loan money to men in our experience as the other way around?
At least.
I don't understand why women are always loaning money to men. I don't get it. They're supposed to be bigger. They're supposed to be stronger. They're supposed to be the hunters. They're supposed to be king of the jungle. And they're always walking around with their hand out. What I still don't understand is, I've asked the women over and over again, why do you want to give this guy money? You know? And I'm not able to get an answer, but what I'm going to try to do from now on is to get the answers from men who look as if they're ordinary guys. Why did you take money from her, Mr. Dodds?
Your Honor, at the time, it was the case that I was very, very short.
Why were you short?
I went through a pretty nasty divorce, and my ex-wife was taking me to court about every other week, and my lawyer was just killing me in fees. And at the time, I mean, it was coming up to Christmas time, everything. I was extremely short-handed of cash. That's all there is to it.
What do you mean it was coming up to Christmas? What does the time of year have to do with it?
I've got 2 daughters. I was really concerned how Christmas was going to turn out.
So you wanted to buy Christmas presents for your daughter, so you borrowed money?
No, that's not what happened, Your Honor. She knew that I was short of cash, and she just straight out just offered it, and I did refuse it, that no, I couldn't ask that of you. And she said, that's what friends do, and I'd like to do that for you. And it was with reluctance that I took it. I'm not one that, likes to take handouts.
How long after that, Mr. Dodds, did you and the plaintiff stop seeing each other?
Maybe 2 months.
Was that a mutual decision or your decision?
It was my decision to stop seeing her.
Well, if it was your decision and you're a moral person, because clearly You were worried about your daughters coming up and not having Christmas presents in December. Why didn't you start to pay her back?
Shortly after I told her that, we were going to stop seeing each other.
Did you just tell her, or did you send her a letter?
I sent her an email, I believe, actually,
Sent her an
and I
email.
kind of explained to her.
That wasn't until February.
Go ahead.
And I explained to her why, decided not to see her anymore. And,
Right.
And it was just shortly thereafter that she became very, very nasty, and she accused me of giving her an S. So it really concerned me. So I started going to different doctors, and I had some tests done to make sure that that was not the case. I was pretty concerned about that. So now I've got doctor bills that I have incurred because of her being spiteful or vindictive or whatever reason.
So in the email where you explained that you were breaking up with her, Mr. Dodds, did you say to her, and I know that I took some money from you, and I know it wasn't a loan at the time, but I consider it my moral obligation to give you the money back, so I'm going to start sending it to you. Was that included in your email?
I don't recall at the time.
Let's say no.
No.
Let's say it wasn't included in your email. Now, how do you think that that made her feel? She gets this email from you after she's given you this money because she was a good friend, and she insisted on helping you out so that your girls would have a Christmas. And then you send her this Dear John email, because we're living in the 21st century. And the email has nothing to do with her $510. So she gets vindictive and nasty. That's what women do. That's what they do. You're lucky all your pants aren't cut in half. Ms. Vandroff.
Yes.
You have 10 seconds to convince me that this was a loan and not, I want to help you because you're my friend. And if you want to say, I can't do it, I'm more than willing to hear it. I have humiliated him sufficiently. What's your pleasure?
Well, first of all this started about the same day that I did give him the money. He made a down payment on some land as well. Now, my problem is why in the world did he make a down payment on land if he couldn't afford his rent?
When did you find out about that?
I believe it was the same day or just before I gave him the check.
And you continued to date him?
Unfortunately.
You continued to share his home with him for a while?
I wasn't living with him.
I don't care whether you were living with him or not. You get my drift,
Yes.
madam?
Yes.
That's also what women do. They'll make excuses. They'll go through all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify bad behavior. So, you've had your 10 seconds and you haven't convinced me that this was a loan.
I don't feel it was a loan.
It wasn't. It was a gift.
I mean, I gave him the money, and I did want to go ahead and help him, but he did send me an email stating that he would repay it.
Oh, let me see that. I would, listen, I would love to, in addition to humiliating him, give you a judgment.
And so if it was not a loan, why would he send me the email?
Oh, fine. Wednesday, April 20th. I will also be paying you back. If it's in installments, that's the best I can do right now. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. At that time, I'd tell her just about anything just to get her off my back.
Fine. Well, that's great. Well, that's what you told her. You said I'd be paying you back even in installments. So you didn't start?
No, ma'am. As far as I'm concerned, I don't owe her that money.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $510. You acknowledged the debt, sir. You said paying you back. That's all. Step out.
Tim McDonald says he incurred attorney fees as a result of false charges filed by Camille Raciniak and Michael Wahab. The couple claims Tim was driving like a maniac.
Mr. McDonald, it is your claim that the defendants filed false charges against you. I believe that the charges emanated from an instance of what we've come to call road rage that happened about a year ago.
That's correct.
The defendant said that you were acting erratically, that what they were trying to do was to secure your license plate number so that they could forward it to the police when this incident occurred. You didn't know each other prior to this incident, is that correct?
No. That's correct.
And you had a trial, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I did.
And you were acquitted?
I was acquitted on all 3 charges in 37 minutes.
When was the incident?
October 24th, 2004 at 2 o'clock.
And what kind of car were you driving, sir?
I was driving a BMW Z3 convertible with the top down.
Do me a favor. Just let me ask the questions and try to give me just the answers that I need. Where were you going, Mr. McDonald?
I had seen an open house sign on a street called Edwards, and I was following an open house sign into a track that I had never been in.
Tell me what happened, Mr. McDonald.
Well, as I was going through the track, I realized that there was a car in front of me. It was driving in an erratic fashion. What I mean by that, it would slow down to about 5 miles an hour, speed up 6.
So listen to me. Don't interrupt him. You're going to have an opportunity to testify. Don't interrupt him.
Sorry, ma'am.
Go ahead.
All of a sudden, I see her kind of go to the right. And I took that as her politely moving off to the right to let me go by.
How many lanes of traffic were there?
This street is a little unusual, and I have a picture over here that I took. If I may move over here to show you. Back here is where I'm seeing all the information going.
I just want to know how large the street was, Mr. McDonald. So that's the street that it was on, so there can be a parked car on either side and one lane of traffic.
Easily.
4 car lanes.
Correct.
Keep going.
The minute I went by her car, she lays into the horn, honk all the way around till I get in front. And I look in my rearview mirror, and simultaneously, I see both fingers go out the window on each side. So that kind of set the mood that was going on. And what I did is I gave a wave like this. My error. But I actually thought that was a polite movement on her in the very beginning. So as I go by, and I'm looking in my rear mirror, I see this go on, they make a left turn. I think, okay, that's the end of it. Instead, they flip the U-turn and now coming at me. They caught me at the stop sign, and his window's down. She pulls the car right up next to me to the left of my side, and there's nothing but screaming going on. So I looked at Miss Resnick, and I said, "You're driving like an idiot." And then I turned right, they turned left. I thought that was the end of it. Nope. So I'm going down the street here, and as I go down the street, the road, as it shows, veers off to the left. As soon as I got around that corner, they're right back on my butt again. Now the problem is, I have them, having gone off to the left, time's taken, and I think they've got a weapon with them. They're staying between a half a car length and a car length behind my car.
How fast were you going, Mr. McDonald, at this point?
Probably about 25, 30 at the most.
Did you ever accelerate beyond 25 to 30 miles? When?
When we came down the long street after they'd been tailgating me, I spotted people at the very end of the block. It's like the movie Duel, where I've got these people just bearing down on me. I don't know what they have in their possession.
What kind of car were they driving?
A white Malibu, I think is what it was.
Okay.
Like a mid-sized car. So they're behind me. I see people down at the end of the road. I accelerate and pull immediately in front of their house.
Uncross your hands.
At the exact moment that I'm pulling over and I get out of my car to yell to somebody to call the police, Miss Resnick takes her car and pulls in front in a wedge fashion.
Okay. So she parks and blocks you.
Correct. And all this whole thing that's going on is predicated on one idea that you said. They wanted to get my license plate. And I can show 15 different times that they could have. The truth meant, sure.
Life has a rhythm to it. There are certain things that are common sense, and there are certain things that are not. You don't have to fill in the blanks for me.
Okay.
If I need for you to fill in the blanks, Mr. McDonald, I'll ask you.
Okay.
Keep going.
So as soon as I get out of the car, she pulls the car over, he jumps out of the car and immediately starts coming toward me. Now at this point, I take a step toward him and I say, in the best voice I can, "Get back in your car."
Okay.
"Get back in your car." And it worked. He turned around right there, but Miss Resnick didn't leave it there. She puts her car in reverse. Your Honor, I have the transcripts of the court proceeding. I have it on audio, and I would appreciate to be able to at least play a couple tracks to give you a flavor of what happened.
She put the car in reverse.
Correct.
Go ahead.
And as she put the car in reverse, Mr. Wahab goes back to
Mr. Wahab. Mr. Wahab.
Sorry.
You have problem controlling yourself, sir?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
You have problem controlling your temper, sir?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, it sounds to me as if you do, sir. You don't want to create that kind of impression, do you?
No, I don't.
You see, you've already done it. You only have one chance to make a first impression, Mr. Wahab.
Yes, Your Honor.
You've made a bad one so far.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wahab gets out of the car. I tell him to go back. He gets back in the car.
You told me that already.
As Miss Resnick's backing the car up, he jumps in the car, shuts the door, and you think it would end there. No. She keeps the car coming right back at me. I move out of the way, and just like she did at the stop sign, she stops his car door right here, the window's down, and I said, "Get out of here!" Now, let me back up a minute.
When you said get out of here,
sure,
you made a slapping or punching motion.
Correct.
You hit the car?
Correct.
Did you hit it with your fist, with your hand?
Open right hand.
Okay. Did you kick the car at all?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And then what happened?
So I hit it 3 times, "Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here," and as I'm saying that, I see Mr. Wahab either rearing back, like he's going to go back and kick me through a window, which I can't believe could be true,
Fine.
or...
You don't know. Don't speculate.
Okay, well, I see something coming at me. And as I lean back to deflect it, she has a car and drive, and they take off.
Okay.
But they don't. She flips the car around and U-turns. Stops again.
Gosh.
Just on the other side of the road. He pops back out again. I say, get back in that car. He gets back in the car instantly. She takes off again. But that's not it. She goes forward again. She stops again. He pops out of the car, but this time, there's a guy that was standing on the other side. A lot of people were evidently watching this thing. He goes over to Mr. Wahab, puts his hand on his shoulder and said, it's not worth it, it's not worth it. Now, here's what I know.
Don't tell me what you know.
This is what I was thinking.
I don't care what you were thinking.
Okay, I left.
You left. Fine. Do you have a copy of the police report?
Yes, I do.
That Ms. Rusniak and Mr. Wahab filed?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Now, you were subsequently arrested, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
What were you charged with, sir?
I was charged with 242 battery of Mr. Wahab, disturbing the peace, challenging to fight against Mr. Wahab, and then vandalism, property, crime against Ms. Rusniak.
Who's going to speak for you? Both of you to start? Go ahead.
First, I would like to say that this man put my life in jeopardy. He really did.
No, you put your life in jeopardy. You put your life in jeopardy. I'm going to tell you why you put your life in jeopardy. Because according to what I read in the police report, your statement, you felt as if this man was driving too fast in a residential street. So you decided to try to get his license plate.
That's not all it was.
That's the reason, because there had been no altercation up until that time.
Actually, there was.
Oh, you explain that to me.
Well, as you see the street here, I live on not this street that's cut off, but the one in front of the Suburban right there.
So?
That's my street. I was turning left onto that street.
So?
He almost caused me to have an accident. He went around me on the left-hand side as I was making my left-hand turn.
He was driving, I said, he was driving erratically, and you said he put your life at risk. You put your life at risk.
I admit, I should have never followed him, and I will never do it again.
That's right.
I learned my lesson on that
That's
one.
right.
But he did physically assault me and my boyfriend.
Listen to me very carefully. You got hot, and you did a very dumb thing. You followed him, and you followed him, and you chased him several times.
I never...
Yes, you did. You followed him in order to, according to you, get his license plate number. But these are your statements, not mine. You told the police that she was so offended by this vehicle's unsafe driving that they made a U-turn and then made a U-turn back to attempt to get his license plate number of the vehicle to report it to the police. They said they pulled up alongside the vehicle at a stop sign. Well, what'd you do that for? If you wanted to get his license plate number, and call the police, but that's not what you did. And asked him why he was driving so recklessly. So let me figure this out. You were very offended by the way he was driving. You made 2 U-turns in order to catch up with him. That's what you told the police, unless you say the police are lying. And you didn't get his license plate, but you pulled up to him and, according to you, said to him in a calm way, why are you driving so recklessly? Do you know how ridiculous that sounds?
No.
Do you know how ridiculous? I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying to you that somewhere between what you're going to tell me and what he told me is the truth. That's probably why the jury acquitted him. Now, who are you? You are 2 people. He's 1 person in a car. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know whether you have good intentions, bad intentions. He has no clue. All he knows is, according to you, you have turned around and followed him on at least 3 occasions. And at that point, you are 2 nuts following him, and he doesn't know what you have in mind. So now what you're complaining about is that he dented your car. I would have hit your car. I would have taken a brick and thrown it through the windshield if 2 people were following me over a dissing incident.
That's not what it was about in the least.
Well, that's what it was about, madam. If you didn't get the license plate number calmly and call the police, you had a cell phone.
No, I didn't.
No, we did not have a cell phone.
Oh, and you had no pen?
No.
No,
we
I did have a pen, but we were unable to get his license plate number.
He was driving too
and my
fast.
first intention was not to get his license
He
plate number.
had pulled over and stopped.
Your Honor, I can prove that they have a cell phone. I can prove it without a doubt.
How can you prove that?
I wasn't on the cell phone up until the point where I tried to call the police, sir.
Oh, madam, are you telling me that you just lied to me when you said you didn't? I'm speaking. Are you telling me that you just lied to me when you said I didn't have a cell phone?
We don't have a cell phone on us.
Where was the cell phone?
It's not my house.
The house.
Just a second. You say you can show me that she had a cell phone in the car?
What they forgot was that they had called 911 from the cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Let me see.
No, I did call.
Mr. Wahab, let me explain to you twice now what you did, sir. You showed me that you cannot control your temper.
I can
2 times.
control my temper, Your Honor.
2 times in a courtroom. So if you can't control yourself in a courtroom, what are you doing out in the street when somebody drives by and flips off your girlfriend? Ooh. You have something that's going to show me that they had a cell phone?
Correct.
Show me.
I also have audio tape of the transcripts.
Okay, what kind of car was it? It was a convertible red BMW 2-door. And it was a male driver? Yes. He has some issues. Okay, what's the cell phone number you're calling from? 714. Okay.
2 things I'll show, Your Honor, if I may.
But just 1 second. Mr.
Sure.
McDonald, that doesn't demonstrate to me that they had a phone in the car.
No,
That...
I'm sorry, but I actually have her statement in court saying that she called on the way back to the house.
Let me see. I'd like to see that.
And I also have the certified copy of the
Your
transcripts
Honor.
complete.
He said that we pulled over to a red curb on the street. There's no red curb on that street,
Mr.
though.
Wahab, we're not talking about red
All right,
curb,
I'm sorry.
sir. The first thing
I don't
I'm
even know why I'm here today.
Just a second. Well, look at me, and I'm going to tell you. You're here today because he's suing you.
Yeah, obviously.
He's suing you, and one of the things that surprised me about Ms. Rusniak's call to the police is her statement to the police, which I believe said something, and I'm paraphrasing, the guy's got some serious issues. Well, I want to tell you something. If somebody had just assaulted my passenger, as you claim, I wouldn't have said this guy in a BMW had some serious issues. I would have said this guy driving erratically has just assaulted my passenger. He kicked and punched my car. Something is clearly wrong with him. Not in a almost lackadaisical way. I'm speaking. Almost, we can hear it again. Almost lackadaisical way. You're reporting that this guy's got some issues.
The operator never let us finish our statement.
Let me tell you something. I heard this very, very clearly. Nobody cut you off.
No.
Nobody cut you off.
He didn't play the whole tape.
You know, when I said to you before, life has a rhythm, and if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Somebody comes into my middle of the night, takes a knife and puts it to my throat, and assaults me. While they're leaving, they steal a teacup. When I call 911, I don't say somebody just came into my house and stole a teacup. I say someone came into my house, put a knife to my throat, and assaulted me. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes,
I heard him in the background.
He was freaking out, and I was trying to be the calm one.
I heard him in the background. All right, let me see where you say she had the cell phone in the car.
Page 31, line 8
Okay.
in the transcript. I have the excerpts, and then I have, and that's a certified transcript.
Now, Mr. McDonald, you think I'm finished with you? I haven't started with you yet.
Okay.
Because I can tell what happened here. Anybody who's lived as long as I have knows exactly what happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm not sure you weren't behaving a little erratically, and I'm not sure you didn't lose your temper and didn't use a lot of foul language.
I don't use foul language at all, Your Honor. Not at all.
Not according to the witnesses, sir. According to the witnesses, they say that you were using a little foul language.
That's where
That may be.
that's where it fell apart in court. They never showed up.
Well, they may not have showed up for whatever reason, but that's what the witnesses said initially when they spoke to the police, whether they didn't want to get involved, whether they were neighbors, who knows. Page what?
Page 31, I believe it was line 8.
It's what you said, my dear. I'm going to read it to you. You backed up to help your boyfriend get into the car quicker, right? Yes. And then you leave. Yes. Okay, and you don't see the BMW anymore, correct? Not after I drove off. Okay, do you remember when you called 911? Yes, it was right as I was driving away.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, because...
Well, that's what it says. Now, I would assume that the trial of this case, you remember things more clearly than you do today because it was closer in time to the event. Aside from the fact it doesn't make sense. Everybody keeps their cell phone in a car. So the fact that you say to me I didn't have my cell phone in the car was a crock. How much did this whole escapade cost you, Mr. McDonald?
He was able to do it for $3,500 as long as I supplied him with all the information.
But in court, you said that you got acquitted in 37 minutes. We were there.
No, it doesn't matter. It also,
for
you said
Listen
that you
to
never
me.
touched my
Third time, you couldn't control yourself. Not the first, not the second. Third time, you couldn't control yourself. So you can't control yourself, and she doesn't know how to tell the truth. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
And, Your Honor, you're
Step
aware
out.
that I have judgments against each of it individually, correct?
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's it.
Mamie Carter says her son's former friend, Michael Powell, damaged her home while she was on vacation. Mamie claims Michael threw parties the entire time she was gone.
Miss Carter, you hired the defendant to sit while you and your son went on a vacation. And according to your complaint, you came back and found your house trashed, some alcohol missing, and the place generally a disaster. How old are you, Mr. Powell?
I am 27 years old currently.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
Currently, I'm a waiter, and
what were you doing when you were engaged by Miss Carter?
Full-time college student, Your Honor.
Full-time college student at age 27?
I'm on the 10-year plan.
Where were you living?
I was living...
Why are you gazing up at the stars?
I'm sorry.
These are not hard questions, Mr.
I'm sorry,
Powell.
Your Honor.
These are not hard questions, sir.
I'm sorry. I live
Where
in
were you living at the time that you were retained by Miss Carter and you were a full-time college student on the 10-year plan?
I live in a duplex near downtown San Antonio.
With whom?
With a roommate of mine.
And who supports you? It's not an answer.
The state.
How does the state support you?
Student loans, Your Honor.
You've been getting 10 years' worth of student loans?
No. That's why I've been in it for so long, because I've been working as well as going to school at certain points in time. So that's why I'm 27 and still in college.
How many credits do you have? So you don't mind if I go through this with him, do you? This
have a
is
good
fascinating.
time.
I'm going to have a good time. You know. Sometimes the job demands you have a good time. Sometimes.
I'm a little bit indecisive, Your Honor, so I've changed my major quite a few times. So probably I have accrued close to 160 hours in school.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Mr. Powell? Where does your family live, Mr. Powell?
They live in San Antonio, Texas.
Is that where you come from?
Yes, born and raised.
Are you friendly with your parents?
Yes, very much so.
Did they give you money?
When times are rough, yes.
Well, if you're 27 years old and unemployed, sir, couldn't get rougher than that.
I'm a waiter, Your Honor. I'm a waiter.
Full-time waiter or a part-time waiter? I'm going to find out where you're a full-time waiter, if you are a full-time waiter.
No, I'm not a full-time waiter, Your Honor.
All right, so a part-time waiter
30
doesn't
hours a
support a duplex, Mr. Powell.
It's cheap rent.
Didn't think that this would happen to you, did you? All right, enough. Miss Carter, which one of these two gentlemen is your son?
He is the one in
that one, in the suit?
In the suit.
And they were friends?
Yes, they were friends since 1997.
All right. Stand up for a second. Your name?
Curtis Carter?
Curtis, where do you live? With your mother?
No, I have my own residence in San Antonio.
Perfect. Who supports the residence?
I do.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an investment broker.
Very nice. Did you buy that suit all by yourself?
She helped me out.
Who paid for it?
Gosh, my mother did.
Gosh. What?
Gosh.
Ouch. Gosh. I love it. Do you make a living?
Yes.
Okay. And you've known Mr. Powell for about 10 years?
Approximately.
Where do you know him from?
We went to high school together, and we have all kinds of friends in common.
You know he's a little flaky.
Well, he hasn't always been.
He is now. Did you recommend Mr. Powell to your mother as a house sitter?
I did.
But we had previously hired him, Your Honor, on a previous occasion, and we got along without difficulty.
How many days did he house sit on the previous occasion?
Maybe a week.
And he lived at your house?
That's correct.
How long ago?
4 years ago.
And 4 years ago, Miss Carter, was he a college student?
Yes, he was.
4 years later, he's still a college student.
That's right.
You should have said to yourself, something's not right there. Now, you hired him when, the second time?
I hired him February 24th of this year.
How long were you going to be away?
We went away from March 1 through the 24th of this year.
And how many animals do you...
1 dog and 1 tropical fish.
Okay. And he was to take care of the dog, the fish, the house.
That's right.
Okay. When you came home on the 24th, did you take photos of the house?
We took photos of the damage the next day or so.
I'd like to see the photos. Are you an otherwise neat person?
Not particularly.
Now, where was this brick wall?
The brick wall is outside my kitchen. Somehow, it was knocked into the driveway. A 4-foot section of it was knocked in.
Your Honor,
okay.
I mean, it wasn't a 4-foot section. It was maybe more like 2 to 2.5 feet. It was about 15. I know because I bought the bricks. There was...
I want you to tell me, Mr. Powell, how the brick wall fell down.
All I can really tell you is I believe it was because she lives in Almas Park, which is also a basin. It floods there a lot.
Just a second. Did it flood the 3 weeks that she was gone?
No, Your Honor.
And we are not in the floodplain.
Just, you have to give him a chance, Miss Carter. Don't interrupt him.
Either way,
Were you leaning against it?
I was leaning against it, indeed.
You were leaning
yes.
against it when it fell over?
When it started to tremor, and then, boom, fell down about close to 15 feet into the driveway.
But I also have leaned against it.
I told you, don't interrupt him. So you were leaning against the brick wall and it fell over into the driveway?
Indeed.
And you tried to fix it?
Indeed. Indeed, I did.
Did you fix it?
To the best of my ability, I had my friend over here, Jason, and his brother-in-law, who does construction and mason work.
27 years.
Helped to put the brick wall back together again. And I even planted flowers in the flower pots because I felt bad about the whole situation.
On what date, Mr. Powell, did the brick wall fall down?
Well, I'm basing this on the plaintiff's statement. She said I don't want you. Well,
the plaintiff is in Africa, on the plains.
Okay.
You are on her brick wall.
Okay.
So you tell me what date. Let's go back a second,
Okay.
Mr. Powell. You're 27 years old.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're a 10-year veteran of college.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many brick walls in your life have fallen down when you were leaning against them?
None since that one, Your Honor.
Before this one? Any before?
No.
So that would be an event that you would remember. Now,
Indeed.
On what date did the brick wall fall down?
February the 27th.
Good. That would be before she left.
Oh, I thought she said she left the February the 25th. See, this is the problem here, Your Honor. It's been so long since the whole incident has occurred. I really don't, dates are kind of a problem for me to recollect at the time.
Life is a problem for you, Mr. Powell. Now, when did you have the first social gathering at her house?
Well, I had a few social gatherings. They were spread out, you know. She said I could have a few people over, several people over. She said there wasn't a problem with that. So I did have friends over.
That's not true.
Don't do it again. Otherwise, I'll say goodbye to you. And you don't want that to happen.
No, I don't.
How many times did you have social gatherings in the 3 weeks that you were house sitting?
3 weeks I was house sitting, probably 6, 7 times.
And give me a range of number of people that you had at the house when you had these social gatherings.
The most at one time would be 5, including myself.
Were you always inside or did you go outside?
We went outside.
When you went outside, what did you do outside?
Smoke cigarettes.
How many bottles of Miss Carter's alcohol did you consume?
I believe her statement was 2 bottles of wine.
If you don't know, say, I don't know, I don't remember, or I drank 2 bottles.
2 bottles of wine. And a little bit of Chivas Regal that she had there. Not the whole bottle, which she claims.
The alcohol was in the bar?
It's actually in the kitchen. It's in a little drawer.
A bottle of Chivas Regal doesn't fit in a little drawer.
Well, there's plenty of cabinets in her kitchen.
So it's in a cabinet, not a little drawer.
A cabinet.
Did she have food in her refrigerator?
She had a little bit of food in her refrigerator. She also had a pantry that was well stocked with soups and the like.
Did you partake?
Yes, because that was part of the plan. She offered to let me eat and drink, so I did. I didn't have a lot of money at the time.
Were you supposed to get paid for watching the house?
Yes. I believe the agreement was $10 a day for 25 days, and I was supposed to receive $250. which I never received. I mean, she wouldn't answer back my phone calls after the first day, so I had to get an attorney because through my circle of friends...
You got an attorney?
Yeah, because I heard, well...
You hired an attorney?
Yes, because we share, Kurt and I share, her son share the same friends. And so you hear a lot of rumors and hearsay, and I was hearing she was bringing detectives into the house and doing all this, you know, meticulous research, and I felt like my best bet would be to get an attorney.
How much did you pay the attorney?
$150 to send her a letter.
What you're telling me, sir, is you paid an attorney $150 to get you $250.
Also, just to communicate, because she was not, at that point in time, was not communicating with me. So I could not...
Just answer my question. You paid an attorney $150 to send her a letter to get your pay of $250.
Also to say that if there's any kind of damage as far as the brick wall is concerned, if it was a problem, me drinking the bottles of wine, you know, no big deal. Take it out of the $250. But then when I serve the papers, I see this long list of these, you know...
How did the banister, this wooden banister, get broken?
Which was broken when I got there.
Shh. The wooden banister was broken when you got there?
Yes.
Split in two?
It was split in two.
Is that right?
Yes, it was split in two, but it was not split in two prior to my leaving on the trip.
No, just a second. That's what I'm saying to you. Was the banister split in two when he came?
Yes.
Was the banister broken before he came to house sit?
No.
Well, you have to listen to my question. When you came home, how did you find your pets?
My dog was in good condition.
Good. Well, at least he did something right. What about the fish?
The fish was still living.
Also, a blessing.
Yes, I agree.
Good. Now, there was a painting that you talk about, that you have a picture of, that had a hole in it. Tell me about the painting.
This painting is of a relative of mine.
It's a great painting, by the way.
Thank you. It's a village blacksmith. It's a family heirloom.
Tell me about the damage to the painting.
It is museum quality, and I discovered that it has a puncture and a rip or a tear in it, and the heavy gold relief frame had been broken off and damaged in it.
Was it hanging on the wall when you came home?
Yes.
But hanging on the wall damaged?
Yes.
Had it been damaged before Mr. Powell started to babysit for your house?
Not at all.
You. Nice suit.
Thank you.
Could you step up, sir? What is your name?
Barton Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, you're a neighbor of the Carters?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened in the household while Mrs. Carter and her son were in Africa.
The first thing I noticed was the defendant's red car, because Miss Carter's car was gone, and it had the writing of a wax on it that would be indicative of the police impound lot in San Antonio. As time went by, the flowers started dying on the terrace and trash started piling up on the terrace. And then as more time went on, I started seeing Miss Carter's treasured dog running around the neighborhood. So I started making an effort to catch the dog and bring it back to the backyard. On the third occasion...
You mean the third occasion the dog was...
The third occasion that the dog was running around the neighborhood, I took the dog home to find that the terrace door was wide open.
Okay. Did you go inside?
I looked in the door, I knocked on the door, I yelled for somebody inside. When I looked in the door, I noticed the back door was also wide open. So I walked in the house to release the dog into the house. I walked in to close the back door. The first thing I noticed was it looked like there had been an ongoing fraternity party in the house. There were electric guitars up on the couch, the tables were covered with booze, the ashtrays were overflowing with cigarettes and what looked like to me the burnt ends of reefer cigarettes in the ashtrays. It looked like there had been an ongoing mosh pit fraternity party, and there was a cat in the house and dog feces on the floor.
Thank you, sir.
He came by once to tell me that the dog was wandering around the neighborhood, and I didn't know who he was because I had never met him.
Mr. Powell, let me tell you that Mr. Simpson just related to me something that I believe, that he went into the house when you were not at home to return the dog to the house. You were not there. He described the inside of the house. That's all I want you to address, sir.
The inside of the house.
Yes. And I want you to bear in mind that I believe him.
Okay, I understand that. Well, when he came over to the house, if he saw beer cans, there were probably some beer cans. But that doesn't mean I drank her liquor or drank all this wine. I mean, there wasn't wine bottles. There was just empty beer cans, which I picked up, threw away, And
What about the dog feces that were there? Did you clean up?
I cannot, no. There were no dog feces. This
no.
dog
I want
is
you to bear
14
in mind.
years old, Your
I
Honor.
want you to bear in mind that I believe,
You believe him. Okay.
So if you didn't clean it up, it was there when she arrived home.
No, Your Honor. It was not there.
Well, then somebody cleaned it up.
I cleaned it up. If anything happened...
Oh, just a second. Well, you just said you didn't.
I was saying that I didn't his testimony is I don't agree with his testimony, even though you do.
Listen to me. I don't care whether you do or not.
The dog's 14 years old.
I'm telling you that I believe him. So if the dog messed in the house and you didn't clean it up, which is what you said at first, that means that she found it when she came home, unless you had Cinderella come and take care of the house at some point.
Your Honor, I took grounds to try to repair her brick wall. I tried to do as much cleaning as I could with the time that I had. Like she says, she's not exactly the most cleanest person in the first place. The house is very messy to begin with.
Who smokes? Do you?
I smoke cigarettes, yes I do.
Do you, Miss Carter?
No, Your Honor.
Who else lives in the house with you?
No one.
Cigarette ashtrays were brought from outside into the inside.
Oh,
that's why.
So unusual. People usually do just the opposite. Maybe when you graduate, you'll start doing it the other way. Most people take cigarettes and take them outside. So what you're telling me is you and your friends had cigarette smoke outside and all the dirty, disgusting cigarette butts, when you've finished smoking outside so you shouldn't smell the house, you brought them back inside.
They were cleaned and gathered in a pile, Your Honor.
No, just, you mean the cigarette butts were cleaned and gathered in a pile?
Let's call it an organized mess. Put everything together, throw it away, put it into the trash can, and take it out.
No, but it hadn't been thrown away, sir, because he came and he found it there.
At that particular date.
All right, I had enough. Miss Carter, listen to me. How much did it cost you to fix the painting?
About $1,000.
No, show me the bill. Come on, see the bill. I finished torturing Mr. Powell. Finished torturing him. You big slob, Mr. Powell. You took advantage of the situation. Make parties in your own condo. Don't make parties in somebody else's house. It's outrageous to treat somebody else's house with such disrespect. 27 years old. Your parents should be very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
No
You're on the
damage done to her painting.
You're on a 10-year plan. You'll never grow up. As long as somebody else is footing the bill, you're going to continue to be a big baby. How much did it cost you to clean up the house and to do any of the brickwork on the house?
The brickwork cost $1,285.
Clean up on the house?
I had a maid service for $40.
All right. How much did it cost you to fix the banister?
$135.
All right, it's $3,460. You better start waiting on a lot more tables and working a lot more than 30 hours a week. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Goodbye.
Christine Lawson is suing her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Lemos, for the cost of a big screen TV they purchased as a couple. Joseph says when they broke up, Christine kept the TV.
Miss Lawson, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time. Something happened while you were living together with your TV. You claimed that he wanted to buy a big screen TV. You put it on a credit card. You allowed him to use the credit card. He used it not only for the TV, but for some other things. He paid for the other things that he used. Ultimately, he paid off the credit card up to the amount of the TV after you broke up, and then he stopped paying for the TV. You want him to pay for the television. Sounds very reasonable, right?
Yes.
Except that you have the TV.
Correct.
So, I'm confused. Mr. Lemos says that he did, in fact, use the credit card to purchase some other things. Even after you broke up, he continued to make payments on the credit card until he had paid off all of the items he had purchased, but for the television.
Correct.
And the reason he didn't pay for the television is because you have the television. When did you break up?
It's about April or May of 2006.
And when was the television purchased?
August of 2004.
So you've been watching the television?
Correct.
In your house?
Yes.
Why don't you pay for it?
I never wanted it. I don't like it. I would love to give it back to him, but I don't have, I'm using it as collateral, I guess, to get the rest of the money that he owes me.
The only money that's owed is owed for the television.
Not entirely.
Most of it is for the television.
I guess you could say that.
So what you want me to believe, Miss Lawson, is that he said to you, you can keep this $3,000 television and watch it, and I'm going to make the payments on it.
No, that's not how the conversation actually
Well, tell me
happened.
how conversation actually went.
Okay. When we broke up, there was still about $4,000 on the credit card, which, as you said, there was multiple things on there. He was paying me up until September of 2006.
Correct,
He was
and then he
making payments.
stopped. Right.
And he wanted to take his TV, which would have been fine to me. However, I couldn't guarantee that I would get the rest of the money that he owed me if I handed over the TV. I had no way of contacting him. I had no cell phone number. The only way I had was email. Most of the emails that I had sent him were ignored.
He paid you for the 6 months.
Well, he was paying on multiple things. That wasn't the only thing on there.
He paid the credit card honorably.
Correct.
Until the only thing left was a television that you were watching.
Well, the television was...
And he wanted it back when you broke up.
Correct.
Well, then you're watching it. You pay for it. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Well, the amount owed on the credit card exceeded what the amount of the television was.
When?
When we broke up, when he stopped paying.
Come on, Miss Lawson. I just made it perfectly clear to you that there's an agreed set of facts, and the agreed set of facts are he paid until September when the only thing that remained on the credit card was the television set, which he had initially asked for when you broke up, which you declined to give him, which you've been watching and you've been using. You pay for it. That's all. Case is dismissed. That's all.
19-year-old nanny Stephanie Goodall is suing her former employer, 26-year-old Wendy Elder, for a fraudulent check she cashed on Wendy's behalf.
Bird, you got to listen to this very carefully. I don't always ask you to do it, but this one is just one of those.
I will pay attention.
Okay. Miss Goodall was Miss Elder's nanny.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to the complaint, Miss Elder, according to her, received a check from some relative. And the check, for some reason, was made out to Miss Goodall, because according to Miss Elder, this relative was old. And she asked Miss Goodall to cash the check. Miss Goodall deposited the check for $1,850 in her checking account, and then slowly, over the course of several days, withdrew the money and gave it to Miss Elder. It turns out that the check bounced. Now, Miss Elder got the cash and spent it.
Of course.
Miss Goodall got the shaft, because her bank wants their money.
Sure.
Miss Elder is outraged that Miss Goodall is suing her, and she's going to explain why. Go.
Your Honor, I didn't write those checks. They were not in my name. They were in her name. I spoke to my relative over the phone. I explained to him that we were having a nanny for my brother's wedding, and he offered to pay expenses and nanny expenses. And I said,
okay. Just a minute. You're adding that to your answer, by the way. That's not what you said in your answer. What you said in your answer was that a relative of your husband's agreed to help you with trip expenses, not nanny expenses, trip expenses.
Trip and nanny expenses, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Correct?
Yes,
because
Your Honor.
you say this is a relative of your husband's.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I assume your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2.
You're a stay-at-home mom. Do you have a home?
We live in an apartment.
Do you pay rent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have a car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay telephone, gas, electric?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay them by check or cash?
We pay them by money order.
So your husband gets his paycheck, and what does he do with it?
We go
Don't think fast. What does he do with his paycheck?
He cashes it.
Where?
At the bank.
What bank?
Wells Fargo.
Is that where you keep your account? You
No,
can't cash a check there unless...
It's drawn on there.
What kind of work does he do?
A grocer. He's a grocery manager.
How long has he worked there?
11 years.
Is there any reason why you don't have a checking account? Is not an answer. Most people have a reason. If they have a job for 11 years, they have a wife, they have 2 children, they have an apartment, they have gas, electric, telephone. Most people have checking accounts. So don't give me an answer that's not going to sit well with me, Miss Elder. Why don't you have a checking account?
We're unable to get one.
Why?
Bankruptcy.
They won't give you a checking account because you have a bankruptcy?
In the last 2 years, yes, Your Honor.
No, my dear. You may not be able to get a checking account because you've committed bank fraud before. That's a possibility.
I've never done that before, Your Honor.
Maybe your husband has.
No, he's not, Your Honor.
Well, if you have a bankruptcy, you can still get a checking account. All you have to do is put money in it.
We have a savings account.
Well, you have a savings account. Well, then you can open up a checking account in the same bank that you have a savings account in. So there's a reason why you don't have a checking account. You have to do the explanation to me how you got the money, she got the shaft, and how she has nerve to sue you. You have an answer?
No, Your Honor.
So why didn't you give her her money back?
Because it wasn't, I don't have that money. I didn't give it to her.
She wasn't paid by your relative. There's a difference if your relative said, I'm going to pay your nanny, and he gives her a bad check. She cashed the check and gave the cash to you. Don't you catch the difference?
I catch the difference, Your Honor, but it wasn't, she didn't give me the whole cash.
How much money did she give you? How much money did you give her?
I gave her $1,900, Your Honor.
I have record of $1,500.
So, let's say I believe you now that we're getting to $1,500. She gave you the cash. Why shouldn't you give it back to her if the check was bad?
Well, my relative or my husband's relative should give it to her, not I.
Can I say something? I have record that shows that this was from her account, not from her relative.
Just a second. Maybe the records that you have are going to help me figure out whether she's a thief or dumb.
Okay.
Let me see.
Right.
Bakersfield Police Department advised that the account on which the check was drawn belonged to Christopher and Wendy Elder. However, the account was closed by the bank in August 2001. That makes you a thief instead of just stupid. Now, that's from the police department.
Well, they didn't talk to me at all.
I don't care whether they don't have to talk to you. Explain it to me. The account had been yours. It was closed in 2001.
I don't see how that's possible. We have record that it's still open.
Is what you're telling me now that you acknowledge this is your account? Listen to me, Miss Elder. I'm going to advise you right now, because I feel as if it's my responsibility to advise you, that we are taping this, and that I plan on sending this tape to the local law enforcement authority in Bakersfield. So far, you are very close to admitting to bank fraud. And I feel as if without having the benefit of consulting with an attorney, you would do very well to say to me, I don't think I want to answer these questions anymore, Judge. Because what you say in your answer was, listen, it wasn't my bank account, it was my relatives being about it. Now we come to a fact from your mouth that it was a bank account that belonged to you and your husband. You said, and my relative. Maybe, maybe not. But if it belonged to the three of you and a bad check was written on it and you knew that it was an account that had no funds in it, that's bank fraud, for which you can go to jail. And my sense is, if you are a woman who doesn't have a checking account and who has a husband who's worked in the same place for 11 years, you are no stranger to problems with banks. Do you follow my drift?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to answer my questions anymore?
No, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all.
Deborah Pittman Page is suing her nephew, 21-year-old Chad Pittman, for a loan to get his car insured and for the cost to get the vehicle out of impound.
Miss Page, did you ever hear the saying, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
This is your nephew?
Yes, it is.
According to your complaint, he fell on some hard times.
Correct.
And you offered to advance him the money to pay his car insurance.
Correct.
And he was supposed to pay you back.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you pay his insurance?
April 11th of 2006.
And how was he supposed to make the payments to you?
He was just starting a new job, and so he thought he could go ahead and pay me then. So he was living at home with his father and his stepmom.
Is that your brother?
Yes. So they had said that he had to have a registered and insured vehicle in order to move back in home. And so that's why we did this. And I paid the insurance company. I wrote a check for $1,432, and then he gave me $432 that he had. That way he was able to get registered and insured, and he moved back in.
And how many payments did he make?
Well, he paid the $432 initially, and then he paid another $100, and then about 6 months later he paid me $60.
Okay, young man, now tell me what happened.
What happened was...
Don't listen. Don't look down.
What happened was on the 12th of April, she did write a check. I did give her the $480.
We're past that. She wrote the check. You gave her $432, leaving a $1,000 balance. You paid her another $160 over a period of time.
No.
You didn't pay her anything.
I gave her more than $160.
Okay, how much did you give her, sir?
I brought the payment down to $840, which means I paid her...
$160.
$160, okay. So I was wrong. I got arrested.
No. Look here. You got...
I got arrested.
When?
I got arrested on November 7th.
So between April 12th And November 7th, you gave her a total of $160.
Correct.
Why
But
is that?
in between times, I didn't have a job. I told her that I'll give you the money, but I also have to support myself at the same time. So I wasn't always able to give her as much as she had expected.
Well, how about anything?
Oh, I would give her something.
No, you didn't. You gave her $160. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, in 7 months.
In
7 months, if you gave her, let's say, $5 a week, which, look at me, look at me. It means going one less time to McDonald's, sir. It means getting one less Frosty Freeze. Mr. Pittman, on the 7th of November, you got arrested for what and where?
I got arrested in Amesbury, Massachusetts for possession of a firearm, a Class D substance.
What was the substance?
Weed.
Marijuana?
Yes. With the FID numbers filed off, and...
The FID numbers filed off the marijuana or the firearm?
No, the firearm. And then I was brought into Middleton.
You were stopped in your car?
Yeah.
The car that your aunt had insured?
Yes. And then it was impounded.
It was?
Oh, yeah, it was. It got impounded. She went to the...
How did she find out that your car was impounded?
Because my dad had found out that I was arrested. She found out. She wanted the car to take out, get the license plates off, turn them in, collect the past due, not the past due, but the amount
the
for
balance of the
cancellation.
insurance.
Exactly.
So that she would at least have some money back.
Right. But she also wanted me to pay the $210. She also has my...
$210 for what?
For getting the car out of the impound.
Didn't you want the car anymore?
It didn't matter to me either way. I was going to be in Middleton for more than a year, so...
Listen to me. So at that point, it didn't matter to you that the car was an impound. What kind of car is this?
96 Ford Contour.
So you didn't care whether the car was an impound. As far as you were concerned, they could have turned it into a toaster.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But didn't you understand, sir, that by letting the car remain there, your aunt was stuck with this $840 payment that you owed her?
I had full intention on paying her, but I couldn't justify why am I paying her. She has my car, she has my title, threatened to forge my signature on my title, said that she could get $1,300 at a junkyard for it, tried signing it. She didn't seem to want either, so I just was like, well, make up your mind.
Can you get any money for his car?
It turns out that in Massachusetts you have to have an inspection sticker, and the car had already been rejected, so it had a rejection sticker on there because it needed some taillights, it needed some other underneath work, but I wasn't sure exactly what. But it also had a cracked windshield, so that was another $200 and some odd dollars. So it turns out that the car wasn't worth what the Kelley Blue Book value on it was. So when he wanted to change the deal and just sign that over to me and say, well, you get to sell the car for whatever, he couldn't understand that I didn't want to deal with selling the car, plus the car wasn't worth the money, and so I wanted him still to pay me the money he owed me. And he
Fabulous.
just didn't
Where
understand.
is the car now?
It's in the parking lot of my parents' house.
Where's the title to the car?
I have the title here.
May I have it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, he gave you the title, I assume, because you indicate that in your complaint, to hold as collateral.
Correct.
Mr. Pittman, Chad.
Yes.
That would be you, right?
That's me.
Guess what I have for you, Chad?
A title?
You know how quick and clever he is?
Sharp as a bowling ball.
Sharp as a bowling ball. Now you have the car. She wants her $840 and what she spent to get it out of impound.
I didn't ask her to get it out of impound. She went out to get it by herself.
Well,
I
let
was
me
in
ask you
Middleton
this
at
question,
the time.
Mr. Pittman. Let's follow your logic, sir. We're now talking about a substantial amount of time later, 10 months. Ultimately, you were going to either get your car back or be stuck with paying her $840. What I'm giving you the opportunity to do is to take the car now that you have the title, and you can sell it. Maybe you can sell it for junk. Maybe you can get $200 for it. Maybe you can get $300 for it. Or you can sign the car over to her. Do you understand?
Yeah, that was
Sign the car
original...
over to her, and you're still going to pay her $840. What's your pleasure, Mr. Pittman? Mr. Pittman, this is your choice. I'm going to see how smart a boy you are. You can either sign the car over to her now and pay her $840, or you can keep the car and pay her $840. What would you like to do?
Well, I'll keep the car. I'll give her the $840.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you
good.
very much, in addition to the towing. You got it?
Gotcha.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,050. Thank you, Your Honor.
Paxton Durlow is suing tattoo artist Breezy Barrett for breach of contract on the bartering of a vehicle. Paxton says Breezy was supposed to tattoo him in exchange for a truck.
Mr. Durlow, you traded your truck for services to be performed by the defendant, who's a tattoo artist. She paid some in cash for the truck, is that right? Correct. And the remainder was to be worked off in this barter arrangement. Is that right?
There was also a bike included in the deal as well.
That you got?
Yes, correct.
Your claim is that Miss Barrett did half of the tattoo and then modified the agreement that you had to complete the tattoo by telling you that you could only come for your appointments between 9 and 12 at a time when you work, therefore requiring that you go to somebody else to have the tattoo finished.
Correct.
That's what you want to pay for, plus some harassment nonsense. Everybody's been harassed. You know who's most harassed here?
You.
And Miss Barrett says that you caused her to lose business because what you did was you kept canceling appointments, and in addition to that, you sexually harassed her, so she's counterclaiming. When did you make this deal with the truck?
I'm not exact on the dates at all. I mean, I have the contract, I guess, in here. So
Okay, so let me have the
if I can-
contract, please. Okay, so the sales agreement requires that the tattoo is to be completed in 2-hour sessions, no more than 3 weeks apart, unless otherwise agreed to by the parties, and that's dated 7/21/06, correct? Correct.
Yes.
When did you start the tattoo?
I was already in the middle of tattoos. This deal came on after I was already getting work from her.
So when you were supposed to start it in 2-hour sessions, according to the agreement.
Yes, that would have been starting that date.
So what happened?
Well, the appointments were going well. Then I would get an occasional push. She would ask me if I could come in on a different day because there was a person that absolutely had to have that appointment. And it was a way for her to make money, and that she was a sole provider for her home. So I agreed. And then it became redundant. And then
what?
I didn't agree any further. It started getting to where I couldn't get anything done.
Did you ever cancel appointments yourself?
The last time that I had an appointment to go to was one I canceled.
How many times did she change your appointment?
I believe 4 times, maybe even more.
And it was always because she had a paying customer?
A paying customer or something came up. She did have a mother who was terminally ill, which I fully understood. And she also changed appointments there too, which I did not consider in the claim.
Okay. When did she tell you about this business of only coming in the morning?
After a discussion of me not getting anything done, the whole conversation was via text, and I have it, if you'd like
I'd like
to
to see it.
Would you like to see pictures of the truck as well?
No.
Okay.
Not necessary. Oh, well, here's your problem. Breezy, you're Breezy, right?
Yes.
Here's your problem. It is clear to me that the two of you have a dispute in these text messages with regard to whose fault it was, etc. You know, clearly you were not yourself as a result of your mother's illness, because that's clear from these emails, and that there were certain stresses in your life. But when you say to him, in the future, you shouldn't off your artist until after the work is done, would be enough for me to say that you breached this contract and I wouldn't let you do any work on me. That's a threat. I mean, I don't know anything about tattoos except that I've seen them. They're done with needles, right? Correct. I wouldn't let anybody near me with a needle who said to me I wouldn't take any action until after it was all done and I was happy. You want to say anything to me?
I would love to.
Go ahead.
After 6 months of tattooing on him, I canceled 2 appointments.
Well, that's too many.
One being I'm a sole provider of my children. I only work 5 hours a day because I have preschool pickup, drop off, daycare closes.
Whatever. Listen,
Okay.
he's not your mother, he's not your sister, he's not your brother.
He was a
you
friend.
Just a second. You canceled 2 appointments, not tragic.
My second appointment I canceled was because his appointment was 2 days after my mother died.
You canceled the 2 appointments.
He called and made 4 appointments, 2 weeks, 2 hours back to back. No showed on every one of them. I only work 5 hours a day.
Show
you
me.
no show.
Show
It's
me.
right
He
here.
says that that's not true.
Right here.
It's in pencil, Your Honor.
It doesn't matter if it's in pencil.
Let me take a look at it.
That's my appointment book. Here's my apprentice who helps make all my appointments.
Do you remember independently making these appointments?
She wasn't there at that time.
Just a second. Just answer my question. Do you remember independently making these appointments, yes or no?
During that point in time.
Just answer my question. Fine. Thank you. I want you to give me the date of the first appointment. Would you give that book back to her, please? Give me the date of the first appointment you say he missed.
Monday, January 15th.
What was the next one?
1/19/07.
Well, that's not 2 weeks apart.
No, he called after no showing and said, sorry, can you get me in? So I did. I slid him in.
Okay, well, that's not 2 weeks apart. First you told me he made appointments 2 weeks apart over a month and didn't appear. So now it's 1/15/07.
Okay.
Then you Then you said he called you and said, I'm sorry, could you fit me in? You made it for 1/19/07, and then you say he didn't show up.
Then he had February 4th.
Go ahead.
Then he had February 16th.
Can you show me, Ms. Berendt, anywhere in these text messages where you say that he missed appointments on the 15th, the 19th, or February 4th, which is why you decided to change the rule, because you have a lot of emails going back and forth, a lot of bad language going back and well, from your end. But there isn't, according to what I see here, one place where you wrote in your email that he missed appointments on January 15th, January 19th, or February 4th. And all of these text messages were written on February 6th. Not one place do you talk about 3 missed appointments.
Those are his text messages.
Show me yours.
That phone was dropped in the toilet. Oh. But he could easily have left off the first 4 emails for you.
He could have. And your phone maybe could have been dried off from the toilet. You have to take care of the rest of his tattoo. That was your contract with him.
I never had a problem with that.
That was your contract. How much will it cost to finish the tattoo?
It's an estimate because, I mean...
How much is the estimate?
I have it right here if you'd like to see it. He believes it to be between $1,440 and $1,800.
Can I see, please?
It depends on the work.
Where is it? Is it on your arm?
It's on both arms. And
got it.
There's not more than $600 left there.
Well, then you should have done it yourself.
I would love to.
Well, you can't because you threatened him. Okay. Now, you also don't mention anywhere the sexual harassment that you talk about. You want to tell me about it?
Yeah, the entire time I worked on him, it was fondling me, grabbing on me. I leave my wife for you the whole time. That's why she's here.
Okay, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. The counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Robert McCullough is suing a former bandmate of his daughter's friend, Joseph Bongiorno, for the return of his musical equipment.
Mr. McCullough, it is your claim that the defendant has a piece of music equipment that belongs to you.
Actually, 2 pieces, Your Honor.
An amp and something else.
And a controller for it, yes.
The defendant acknowledges that he has the equipment. He said it's his. You gave it to him.
Okay.
That's your defense, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where is it?
It is currently in my possession at my home.
How long do you know the plaintiff?
Mr. McCullough, I met back in November of 2008.
How did you meet him?
I met him through Matthew Clooney, the plaintiff's witness. I'd been in a band with them since early, probably November of 2007.
So you met him through your bandmate?
Yes.
Now, tell me the circumstances of how this perfect stranger to you, someone with whom you had no relationship with, no business dealings with, correct? Mm-hmm. Gave you what he says, valuable pieces of equipment worth in excess of $1,000.
I went to his house with Matt Clooney, and he said Matt had previously called me saying that Mr. McCullough had an amplification system for me to use, and I went to
use an amp system for you to use.
It was given to me, yes.
No, you first said he had an amp system for you to use. Mm-hmm. Those are the words that you just said. Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
No, of course it's right. You want me to play it back for you?
No,
what you said was, Matt called you and said that Mr. McCullough had amp equipment for you to use. Then you quickly changed the word use for you to have. But the first word you used was use, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do?
I took the equipment from Mr. McCullough.
What was the agreement? What did he say to you, and what did you say to him?
Well, when it was given to me or handed over to me, there was no agreement saying that I had to return the equipment.
Tell me what he said to you.
What he said to me was, you can have this equipment and use it, you know, tell me what you think about it, and that was what was said.
Did you use it?
Yes.
Did you tell him what you thought about it?
No, I did not.
Then you have to give it back. He gave it to you to use, and he said to you, I want you to use this and tell me what you think about it. There's your contract, if I believe you. You never told him what you thought about the equipment.
No, I did not.
You got to give it back. Now. The fact that you're angry because you're no longer in the band doesn't mean you don't return the equipment. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Within 5 days, sir, you get your equipment back.
Your Honor, just one quick thing I'd like to interject, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would be the recourse? I'd have the 2 pieces of equipment.
Do you have the 2 pieces of equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
He has them.
Okay.
And they're to be returned to him in good condition. Otherwise, he can bring you back here. Do you understand? You don't want to be back here because you've already embarrassed yourself. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
Ian Mooney is suing his ex-girlfriend, Erin Enslin, for money owed on a lease for a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Erin says the lease is Ian's responsibility.
Mr. Mooney, this is your former girlfriend. You leased a car together. You got another car. Miss Enslin said that she would take over the lease payments on the car. She did. You broke up. She took the car with her. She drove the car for a considerable period of time. The lease was about to be up. The payoff was too much. She said, you can have the car back. I don't want it. You were forced to pay the payout on the lease, which, according to your complaint, was about $5,000. Miss Enslin says it was your car. It's your problem. That's your defense.
Yes.
When was the car leased?
October 6th of 2001, and it was leased by myself and Erin.
Okay, and how long did you drive the car together?
Until, I believe, February of '04. Erin had found employment, and basically we agreed that I would get another car in my name, and Erin would take over the Eclipse and make the payments.
And you did that?
Yes.
For how long?
The lease was up 2006, October. I called him a few times a couple months before saying that I couldn't afford the car. It was really breaking me. So obviously there was no way I was going to be able to pay it off, and he just refused to take it off of me.
Well, but you had an agreement with him, Miss Enslin.
Yeah, as long as I'm driving the car, I'll pay for it. There were times where I called him and said, I don't want it. I don't want to drive it. It was never discussed of bringing back the lease and me paying it off.
Well, what did you expect to happen?
I'm not even on the lease.
Miss Enslin.
I'm a co-signer for the loan.
Correct.
I'm not on the title of the car. It's not my car.
But you are co-signer on the loan, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, you had this car in total how long, sir?
The full lease, 5 years between the 2 of us. Erin had said that she had no intention of keeping the car, yet I
believe she had intention of keeping the car as long as it was just like a lease. I'm speaking, Mr. Mooney. I believe that she had the intention of keeping the car and paying for it until it was no longer advantageous for her. You have a car now, Miss Enslin?
Do I have a car?
That's my question. Do you have a car now?
Yes, I have a car now.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Dodge Spirit.
What year?
94.
Where did you get it from?
My parents.
Your parents gave it to you as a gift?
Yes.
When did they give it to you as a gift?
October of last year.
So at about the same time that you said, I can't afford these payments anymore?
At the same time the lease was up for his car.
The same time the lease was up on a car on which you were a co-signatory?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Can I please see the payout?
This didn't become an issue until there was damage to the car, and basically she'd gone over on the mileage.
How was the car damaged? Miss Enslin, you don't know. How was the car damaged?
There's a scrape on the side of the car.
How did it happen?
I hit something with it.
Why didn't you fix it?
Because it happened right before the lease was up. And his girlfriend at the time was actually looking into buying it, and her dad owned a garage, so there was a point where we thought that they were going to fix it and buy it and just take it off of whatever she paid for it.
Who do you live with?
My boyfriend.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an assistant.
Assistant what?
Assistant to a businessman.
What kind of business?
He owns a small production company.
You mean theatrical?
No, music.
And what does your boyfriend do, Miss Enslin?
He's a writer.
And what do your parents do?
My mom works in a factory. She's an accountant. And my dad fixes the roads and works for the township.
How old are you, Miss Enslin?
25.
You have to grow up and stop being a baby. If you have a responsibility, you're supposed to take care of the responsibility. You're not supposed to stick somebody else with your responsibilities. You were going to assume the responsibility on the car until you decided it was too expensive a proposition for you to take it over after the lease. So what? You relied on your parents to treat your car so you could get to and from work and not have to take care of this responsibility. You have to grow up, madam. Beauty fades, dumb is forever. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Zenita Arnold and her husband, Lawrence Hill, are suing Zenita's ex-husband, Bruce Arnold, for filing false charges of abuse with Child Protective Services.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 105 on the calendar in the matter of Arnold Hill versus Arnold. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Arnold, this is your former husband?
Yes.
And this is your?
New husband.
New husband. And according to your complaint, your former husband made allegations about you and your husband with regard to your treatment of your 2 children. You have 2 children with him?
Yes.
As a result of that, the 2 of you were briefly arrested and lost custody of the children for a very brief period of time. The children are back with you now.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold said he has every right to have been concerned about his children. He acknowledges he made the report that resulted in your arrest, and he is going to explain to me why. Now, when were you divorced, Miss Arnold?
August 16, 2004.
And how many children do you have, Mr. Arnold?
2, a boy.
Only 2 children?
Yes, by her.
What are their dates of birth?
March 19th for my son, 99, and my daughter's September 4th, 19.
Did you and your former wife live together until 2004?
No.
When did you separate?
2002 or probably 1.
When did you separate?
2000.
Your former wife has had physical custody of the children since 2000. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Since one of the children was a year old, right? And one of the children was 5 years old.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Explain it to me.
My son was at least about 3 years old when we was living together.
Is that right?
Bruce has been on and on in the household. So it was basically 1 month he'll be in the household, the next month he will not.
That's a lot.
With duration of that, his appearance was basically an in-and-out father. I assumed full custody of my kids, sole custody, when I got the divorce, August 16, 2004.
Okay, now I got it. Now, sir, you made a report to Child Protective Services or to the police?
To the police.
When?
December 2006, I believe it was around the 15th or 16th.
Prior to December 2016, that's the date of your divorce, have you been regularly paying child support?
Yes, off and on.
Yes, off and on is not regularly paying child support. Since August 16th, have you been regularly paying child support?
I pay child support twice. I pay from the public aid and for our divorce.
I'm asking you, since August 16th, 2004, when the divorce granted you primary physical custody, have you been regularly paying support?
Yes.
Well, you said yes, and then 2 seconds ago you said yes off and on. Which one is it?
Because when I wasn't working, I was still giving her $50 a week, and they weren't taking out my check.
Is that right?
No. Basically, since all of this happened December 16th, I'll say a minimum of about 2 payments that he has given me. This current year, up to date, I would say at the most, maybe a month worth of payments, and that's $50 every other month, if that.
Okay. Now, sir, you reported an incident to the police in December of 2006. You want to tell me what precipitated that report?
Yes, my children was home with my mother, their grandmother, and my daughter and her was talking. And my daughter came out and told her everything that was going on about the past and the present. And so my mother got on the phone, called me crying. She was saying that my kids are being abused.
Don't tell me what your mother said to you. I assume that there was a time that you came home and spoke to your children.
I was getting to that point, ma'am.
I know, but you can't tell me what your mother said to you, sir, because that's hearsay.
I understand.
You can, however, tell me what your children... Listen to me. You're not paying attention, Mr. Arnold. You cannot tell me what your mother said to you. There is an exception with regard to what children say to their parents in family court proceedings, so I'm accepting what the children said to you. And I assume that as a result of the conversation with your mother, you had a conversation with your children.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
As soon as I got off the phone with her, I came home and I talked to my children. And that's when they informed me about the things that was going on.
Well, I would like you to tell me specifically what they informed you and which child informed you of what.
My daughter informed me that one occasion that Zenita had sat on top of her back while Lawrence whooped her. Then my son told me...
Okay, now, that's what your daughter said to you.
Yes, ma'am.
That her stepfather had hit her with what?
A belt.
Did she tell you when?
It was like a month prior to that date.
Are you making this up as you're going? Are you sure that she said to you it was a month before?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay. And is that all your daughter told you?
No.
What else did she tell you?
She told me that she got a whooping because she didn't like what her mother had picked out for her for school, and she got in trouble for that.
Is that at the same occasion that you're talking to me about?
No, ma'am.
That was on a different occasion.
Yes.
And when did she say that happened?
Well, she didn't really say when that one happened. And then my son told me that he gets whoopings for no reason. So he told me about when they used to stay in Texas, that he showed me a burnt mark that he said Lawrence had burnt him with an iron. I said, did he do it on purpose or on accident? He said, no, Daddy, he did it on purpose.
When were you living in Texas? What year?
2003, 2004.
So that's 2003, 2004. So that your son was either 4 or 5 years old when you were in Texas. Okay. And what else did your son tell you?
He told me, well, actually, she told me one time that he had whooped him and hit him in his private part, and it swelled up so bad that she claimed they took him to the hospital.
And your former wife told you that?
And he's a witness to that.
Okay. So as a result of that, those are the reasons that you called the police?
It was all building up, the stuff that they telling me that I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
Yes,
that's the reason why you called the police. Mr. Hill, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. And I would prefer answers from you so that I don't necessarily have to interview the children, who I understand are here, because I assume that they've already been examined and spoken to. So I would prefer that I get the legitimate answers from you. Mr. Hill, have you ever hit either of your stepchildren?
I have disciplined them with a belt in previous instances, yes.
How often?
Very infrequently.
More than 5 times since you've been their stepfather, or less than 5 times?
Less than 5 times.
More than twice or less than twice?
More than twice, less than 5.
And have you done that with the approval of Miss Arnold?
Yes.
Has Miss Arnold ever disciplined the children with a belt?
Yes.
These are hard questions.
That's right. I'm sorry, man.
You got a lot of nerves.
Miss Arnold, don't speak to him.
I'm sorry.
Don't speak to him. How often have you witnessed Miss Arnold disciplining her children with a belt?
I would say over the past 4 years, less than 5, more than twice.
Both the boy and the girl?
Yes. My daughter really doesn't get whoopings at all. We don't have
You mean your stepdaughter?
Yes.
How old was your stepson when you started to discipline him with a belt?
He was 4, almost 5 years old.
And do you remember the reason that you disciplined him with a belt?
No, not offhand. It was so long ago.
Well, try to tell me what infractions were that you remember that caused either the boy or the girl to be disciplined with a belt.
From what I remember is for lying.
Who was lying?
My son was lying.
What did he say?
I believe it had something to do with school. We hold school very important, so...
Do you remember, Miss Arnold?
Actually, this particular incident, when he's talking about, it was dealing with school. We had a conversation with Michael regarding his grades and also just the upkeep of his schoolwork. We talked with him on numerous occasions about it. Our whoopings or our discipline methods are not what Bruce tends them out to be. When we do, at that point, when he did whoop him, it's more or less, we'll tell him to hold out his hand and whoop him 1 or 2 times at that point.
That's not true.
Okay.
Are you in the household?
Shh. Hey! Listen to me. Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Arnold had no right to notify the police or Child Protective Services about what he perceived to be abuse and or neglect of his children. Mm-hmm. You believe that. And I'm telling you that he had every right to notify Child Protective Services, and if notify the police who reported you to Child Protective Services in order to ascertain whether or not you were using excessive corporal punishment. He had not only the right, but he had the obligation to do that. You two look like very nice people. There is a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. I acknowledge that. That's a term of law, because the law in this country doesn't say, although perhaps it should, that you cannot corporally punish your children by using a belt or a hanger or anything else. The law says that you cannot excessively punish your children. But as a parent, if my children came to me and said that their step-parent was with a belt, a 4-year-old...
Ma'am, it wasn't
I'm
a belt.
speaking.
It was an iron.
It was an iron.
He's stating,
That's what he's stating.
That's why we got arrested.
Listen to me.
He said that we whooped him with a metal iron and we burnt the child. That was a lie.
No,
we have a statement.
Listen to me, listen to me. Hey.
Come on.
You're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
Yes, we are, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not the allegation. The allegation is a metal iron.
Listen to me. If your children were telling their father that they felt as if they were being disciplined harshly by you and their stepfather. And it is apparent to me that you do discipline them harshly. Now, whether in the jurisdiction that you live, that's permissible or not, that's not up to me to say. I assume that the courts permitted you to have your children
you
back.
Mr. Arnold, has he whooped his children either?
Listen to
over
me.
The past
And
number
you know
of
you
years?
have
whooped those kids.
Why
You don't
should
need
you
to be.
advise
Why?
me?
Why? Because you whooped his
Still
children.
ain't got yours for doing that to my son.
I ain't did nothing to your son.
I would like for you to talk to the kids.
Just a second.
Because that's what it's about. He made those kids lie.
Talk to the judge.
No, just a second.
I take care of
Hey!
Sir,
If you say
are
one
you
more
listening?
word, leave
Talk
it
to
down
the
there.
judge.
If you say one more word, I'm not even going to continue with the case. Do you understand, Miss Arnold?
Yes.
You have a temper problem. And my sense is if you have a temper problem here with me in a court situation where I am in authority and in control of my space, my sense is that if you have a temper problem, you can lose it with a 5-year-old. Do you get it? Now, try to keep your mouth shut. Do you understand until I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you get it?
Hey,
Stop
hey,
it.
hey.
Do you get it?
Yes.
I said to you, I'm going to ask you questions so that I won't have to interview the children if I don't have to, because the children have already been interviewed, I guarantee, by many professionals with the Child Protective Services and the police department. Put your hand down. I didn't have to interview the children because you told me, the two of you told me that you whip your children with belts. Now,
We no longer do that because we have actually had intervention prior before him making allegations.
Listen to me.
Yes,
Listen
Your
to
Honor.
me. Whether or not you've had intervention,
We
and
had counseling.
you had counseling.
Yes,
Hey,
and it was proven that these charges came after the
I
fact.
dropped the charges.
Just
He
a
should be in
second.
jail.
Hey,
No.
I'm saying
You
the
should
same
be in
thing
jail for
to
not
you
paying
as I
child
said to
support. I
them.
raised your kids.
How come she get money from me every other week?
Your case is
Every other week,
dismissed.
don't pay for it.
Goodbye.
Russell White is suing his neighbor, Adalberto Flores, for the cost to fix his car. Russell says Adalberto's daughters wrote on the vehicle with chalk.
Mr. Flores, we thought it best that your 4-year-old little girl, who was the subject of this case, was here to me to be a little bit upset about being here. I don't think it's necessary for her to be here. If it is, I'll have to see her in chambers. Clear?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. White, you and Mr. Flores are neighbors,
Yes.
and your children played together for some period of time until recently.
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that Mr. Flores is responsible for some damage that his daughters did to your car.
Yes.
You fixed the car, and you really want Mr. Flores to pay your insurance deductible, which is $500.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Flores says that there's no evidence that his girls caused any damage to your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who caused the damage to your car and when, Mr. White?
Well, on October the 13th, I was working 3 to 11. When I came home that evening, I noticed some damage on my car.
You have photographs of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. What was it, chalk?
It was chalk, and it was like someone had scribbled on the back of it.
It's hard to see in these photographs.
Yeah, it's
but
hard because of the color of the car.
Yeah, but I do see sort of circular motions.
Yes.
Got it. Now, you weren't there. What makes you think his girls did the damage?
I have a witness that saw this occur.
Well, then I'll hear the witness. Bert, can we get a witness? I assume they're outside.
How you doing?
Swear the witness, please.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record, please.
Alfredo Warren.
Mr. Warren, are you a neighbor of these people?
No, ma'am. I stay in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay. Mr. White said you observed something that happened with his car.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a friend of his?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing near his house?
I was up there visiting with some friends, and on this particular day, I was sitting in the car while someone else went in the house. And I just noticed 2 small kids of they wasn't black, but they was like maybe mixed or Mexican or some kind of race. And the smallest one was riding on the car from like the trunk part, and I seen her go around the side,
And what was the other one doing?
sitting like on the sidewalk.
Go ahead.
So the next day, when I was coming back to drop this girl off, I so happened to see the person that was getting to the car that had been rode on.
Was that this gentleman?
It was this gentleman. So I asked him, did he have kids? And I said, well, I think I seen your kids writing on your car. And so he said, no, it wasn't my kids, but my car was vandalized yesterday. And I told him if he needed any help, I just gave my number. And then I got a call at work, and I heard about the whole issue.
Would you recognize those children again?
Yeah, probably if I seen them, yes, ma'am.
Would you recognize the older child?
Well, I mainly just seen the small one writing on the car.
Did you see the one who was sitting down?
She was like at the head of the car. So I just noticed a head, you know, like you just glance, because I'm looking through my rearview mirror. And so that's how I seen it.
Do you recognize this young lady here?
I don't know if that's the youngest one. Because she was shorter, and this was like, it's been like some months ago.
Okay. Bird, would you take Mr. Warren outside to where Mr. Flores' youngest daughter is and ask him if he has seen her before? Okay?
All right.
Mr. Warren, why don't you go with Officer Bird? Now, before Mr. Warren comes back, you step up here. Right over here. You hop up in that chair. Tell me. All right, Jessica. So before this gets any worse, did your sister ride on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Do you know anybody who damaged Mr. White's car?
No.
And you weren't present that day, sitting there while your little sister either took a piece of chalk or anything else and wrote on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Go and have a seat. All right, Mr. Warren. Did you see the little girl who was outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize that
That's
little
the
girl?
child. That's the one I seen.
That's the little girl who wrote on the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to October 13th, you had never met the plaintiff, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you positive that the other young lady that you saw outside, the little 4-year-old?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one I seen right on the car.
Okay. What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Flores?
They running a game.
What?
I said they running a game because she don't go outside without her sister. So I don't know what he talking about that he see my only 4-year-old outside.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. Nobody's running a game. Your daughter fibbed to you. This one. This man doesn't know him, I believe, and that's my job.
Oh, okay.
To determine who's telling the truth.
All right.
He didn't say to me, yes, I recognize her. He said, I'm not sure. It's been a while ago.
Right.
But when he went outside and saw your little girl, who he was watching right on the car, he was able to identify her, and I believe him. So you better have your girls a little bit more in check. Anything else you want to say to me?
Yeah, I think she didn't do it.
Well, you keep going in that direction, and you're going to be standing in court a lot with your daughters. A lot. I've given you all the reasons. Somebody rode on his car and vandalized it. I'm speaking. You may get away with that with your wife. You don't get away with it with me. We have an independent witness who saw 2 children, one older, one younger. The younger one was writing on the car. And he says there's no question in his mind it was your daughter. And you said, I don't believe it. Why? Your daughters never lied to you?
No.
Baloney.
They ain't the only ones that live in. They ain't the only little girls that live in the block.
Just a second. He said it was your daughter. Certainly they're not the only children living on the block.
He don't even live around there.
Oh, you're an
He
idiot.
live in Sound Bay.
You're an idiot. You're going to spend a lot of time in court, both for yourself and your children. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
21-year-old Dana Anthony is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Ryan Anderson, for his share of 2 months' rent and for half of a lease termination fee.
Miss Anthony, the defendant was your boyfriend. You signed a 1-year lease on an apartment with him. He moved out prior to the termination of the lease. You want him to be responsible for certain fees and rent.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson says that you made it impossible for him to live there, and that's why he moved out. Is this the new boyfriend?
Yes.
Stand up. I have a few questions for you. Last name is?
Talbert.
Mr. Talbert, when did you meet Miss Anthony?
First week of December, maybe a day before.
And at that time, Miss Anthony, you and Mr. Anderson were sharing the apartment together.
Yes.
but you had already terminated your relationship.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Talbot, during the month of December 2008, how many nights did Miss Anthony spend in your home?
Roughly 10 to 12 of those nights in my home.
Thank you. You could be seated.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And this is Mr. Anderson's defense to moving out early and not paying you. He said that you had a one-bedroom apartment and you elected to take the bedroom when you separated.
I took the bedroom because I purchased all the furniture in the apartment, and when we broke up, we made an agreement that he would stay in the living room and I would get the bedroom. I said, anytime I'm not there, feel free to stay in the bedroom. I'm not there. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Mr. Anderson says that he did just that. He didn't tell me that that was an agreement that you had. Was that an agreement?
Yes, sir. Or, ma'am.
But did move into the bedroom. And when you came home and found him in the bedroom, you put a lock on the bedroom door.
He did not move into the bedroom. He was never in there.
Then, Mr. Anderson, your defense to this action is that she made it impossible for you to live there, which is why you moved out on December 31st. Tell me how she made it impossible for you to live there.
Well, obviously, since we were no longer together, I was just basically, when I was home, trying to keep to myself, just kind of stay out of her way, leave her alone. And she was constantly flaunting, you know, that she had moved on, that she was with somebody else. You know, I obviously had no way of knowing if she was, but that's what was being said to me. There was an agreement about the bedroom. I did use it a few times, but it was a little weird, you know, still with her stuff being in there, but it was a room and her cats weren't in there, so I used it. And then I came home one day, and I looked down and there had been a deadbolt installed on the bedroom door. And the only reason I had access to any clothes or anything for the weekend was because I had left a load of clothes in the dryer. Everything I owned aside from a load of clothes and my computer was in the bedroom.
Why did you put a deadbolt on?
It was not a deadbolt.
What was it?
It was a regular lock, like
Why?
a bathroom door lock.
Why?
Because he was getting threatening, because he was jealous and he was insecure that I was out having fun and he was stuck at home. And he was
just a second. Miss Anthony, how did it make any difference if you put a plain old lock on the bedroom door? You weren't sleeping there anyway, most of the time. So why would you put a lock on the bedroom door? Why?
Because he kept getting threatening and asking me and questioning me about where I go, what I'm doing, and when it's none of his business.
But what difference does it make, Miss Anthony?
Because he kept pushing the fact that he wanted the bedroom, and that if I had the bedroom, I should pay more. But then he wouldn't want to pay more if he had the bedroom.
All right. Miss Anthony, I agree with him. By putting a lock on the bedroom door, you effectively, constructively evicted him from part of his home. And you can't do that. And if that's what you did, you have to take care of the rent yourself. And, I mean, it may have been uncomfortable and was probably a very good idea that one of you left. But the fact that you precipitated it by changing the rules and putting a lock on the bedroom door when you, in fact, said to him, you can use it whenever you want it, whenever I'm not home. And according to Mr. Talbot, you spent the last half of the month of December at his home. So there was really no reason why Mr. Anderson couldn't use the bedroom and had to be relegated to the living room. And you changed the rules. You pay the rent.
Obviously, it didn't stay locked.
The case is dismissed.
John Allen claims former friend Karen Stevenson owes for a loan of $1,800.
Mr. Allen, it is your claim that the defendant borrowed some money from you. She's a former girlfriend of yours. Ms. Stevenson says that you're a con guy. She never borrowed any money from you. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Okay. Yes, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we decided to part ways, and we remained friends. On about the middle of September, about a week before I actually loaned her the money, she called me in desperation and said Lisa had taken a checkbook that no longer existed, a checking account, wrote a check out for $1,800. She needed money, that the bank was pressing charges, and
she wrote out a bad check?
Yes, Lisa.
Is Lisa here?
No.
Where is she?
She lives in Florida.
Who does she live with in Florida?
Herself.
What does she do for a living?
She's a cashier.
Ever been arrested?
No. Ever
been charged with crime?
Lisa?
No. Lisa?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So at the time when she called me, she said, I need this money. If I don't pay this $1,800 back.
For Lisa?
For Lisa, they're going to arrest me because it was drawn on my bank account. So...
Oh, just a minute. Where do you live?
Salisbury, Maryland.
You live in Maryland, and somehow Lisa got hold of one of her old checkbooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa forged a check for $1,800.
Yes.
But there was no longer an account.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa cashed a check in Florida.
Somewhere, I don't know actually, when she said, but it was a check written on this account, and it bounced, so the bank was going to press charges, and if she didn't pay the money back, they were going to put her in jail.
Put who in jail?
Karen.
It's not true.
She didn't write a bad check.
Well, that's what she told me, ma'am.
That sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't that sound ridiculous? How old are you?
I'm be 42 in March, ma'am.
42. What do you do for a living?
I have a few businesses. I'm going back to school, getting my real estate degree, and
What kind of businesses do you have?
I have a business running a company. I started in 1990.
What does it make? What does it do?
Well, I buy and resell food as like a Cisco or a U.S. food service.
You do that now?
No, right now I am in the process of going back to school. The company
So now you don't do anything?
No, the company still exists. I'm collecting my accounts receivables and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am. I'm still in the process. I have real estate I'm selling. I do various different things.
Who do you live with?
I live with my brother right now. I'm in the process of selling my real estate.
You're in the process of doing an awful lot, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Are you in the process of going through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am.
Did you go through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Did you ever apply for a bankruptcy?
No,
Did you
ma'am.
ever consult with a lawyer about a bankruptcy?
Yes, I have.
When?
I consult with my lawyer in August, September, October, just discussing...
September of 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
About the same time that she was asking for some money?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why would you consult with an attorney about a bankruptcy, sir?
I'd just gone through a divorce that, the settlement of property had to be dispersed. I had loans with my company, just seeking my different options, out there. It was discussed, but it was never gone through. I'm in a process of selling my assets to pay debts. That was my choice to do it that way. I want to make sure all of my bills are paid. That's why I'm selling my home, other real estate. I have a $1.5 million piece of business real estate that I'm in the process of selling.
What's the mortgage on it?
$790,000.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in June of '04.
In whose name is it?
It's in my company's name.
Which is?
Paradise Produce Company Incorporated.
Who else is a partner in Paradise Produce?
Nobody.
Current on your mortgage payments?
Not at this time, no. They are in the process of being sold right now.
Is there a contract for the sale of the property?
Yes, there is a contract for the sale of the property. It's pending on other things, that's going on in the community. So,
You got a lot going on in your life, Mr.
I'm a very
Allen.
active man.
You're got a lot going on.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so she asked you for this $1,800, and what did you do, sir? I just wanted to get a sense, because I have to figure out who's pulling my leg and who's not.
I wrote her this check out from one of my bank accounts. I have numerous bank accounts because I have personal things, business things, and all that. And I actually wrote it out to her name and put loan on the memo. I handed this check to her on September 26th, and she took it, and I said, you can go right down the road and cash this check at my bank.
Where did you give it to her?
I gave it to her in the shopping center parking lot. I met her in Del Mar, Delaware, on the Delaware side. So that night, she called me back. She says, well, I don't think I can cash this check. I've lost my license, and I don't have a current checking account. I said, well, you can go right to the bank and cash this. I said, I made it out to you, and there's money in the checking account. She said, no, I'd rather you go to the bank and cash a check. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I said, but I would need this other check back. So the next day, I went to Laurie. This is my witness, Laurie Collins. Can I bring her forward, Judge? Or?
Who are you?
I'm a friend of John's.
What kind of a friend?
Close family friend for over 30 years.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went by Laurie's house. I discussed it with Laurie. I said, Laurie, I'm going to probably loan some money. I have loaned some money. She wants me to take the check back and go to the bank and cash the check and give her the $1,800. And Laurie said, well, just make sure that you keep this check here, the first check, if she gives it back to you.
First check is of no value.
Right.
Unless I can test for fingerprints on it.
Right. And then the second check is I wrote her name in the memo that I cashed this check. Here's
yeah, well, that's what you wrote.
And I went to the bank.
You cashed the check and wrote her name in the memo.
Right. So I told Laurie, I said, Laurie, I have loaned this lady some money. I said, as a friend, I just wanted somebody to know that I had loaned her the money.
Was she there when you gave her the money?
No, ma'am.
Good. Sit down.
And at the time I wrote the check out, I have bank accounts with different amount of figures in it. You know, right now, $25,000 on this. If I needed it, she claims that I needed the money for myself. I don't need it.
Just show me the account where you took out the $1,800.
Yes, right there.
Okay.
Your Honor, he states that the first check that he wrote me, he had $1,800 in that account. That's the check he first gave me. I subpoenaed his bank records. $1,800 was not in there. He had
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. He had $72.79 in that account.
Let me see. Can I see that check, please? Sir, you wrote her a check on 9/26 for $1,800. You didn't have $1,800 in that account.
Right.
On which you wrote this $1,800 check.
Right.
Well, why would you write her an $1,800 check and tell her to go?
Because I was going to make a deposit in the account. I moved money from different checking accounts. I have interest-bearing accounts with my business and everything like that. I move money when I need money to pay bills like
yeah,
in
but
the
you
business.
didn't move any money here, sir. You didn't move any money here. 3 days later...
She gave me the check back because she said that she couldn't cash it.
I understand that.
Because she didn't have a
listen
license.
to me.
Yes, ma'am.
That was not the same day, sir. You already testified. It was the next day that she called you and said, I don't have a driver's license, and therefore I can't cash this check.
Right.
Now, you had already told her to go and cash the check, which she could have done on 9/26.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? On 9/26, if she went to your bank,
yes, ma'am,
and deposited that check, they would not have cashed that check because there was no balance in that account.
They could have moved the money from my business account, which is with the same bank, to cover my overdraft.
There's no overdraft privilege in here.
I'm sorry, I did lend this lady some money.
Go ahead.
He also says he gave me the $1,800. I was leaving that day to go out of town for a wedding. I was running around getting my nails done, my hair done. He didn't give me $1,800.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, let's start out with the conversation that you had with him about Lisa.
There was no conversation about Lisa. He knows she was in town for maybe a week or two. She moved back to Florida. I don't have a checking account. I don't have any checks. I haven't had a checking account in 3 years.
So you never had a discussion with him about a loan?
No.
Never had a discussion with him about giving you any money?
No.
Why do you think he would make up this convoluted story?
Your Honor, his business account had been frozen because he owes so many people money. Okay? He couldn't even make payroll. John and I continued to talk. We were good friends. He wanted me to help him take the money out of his county bank and put in a safety deposit box, put in my name, and he wanted to put the cash in there so they couldn't touch that money. Then I told him I didn't want to be involved in that because they're going to want to know where this $21,000 is. I didn't want that in my name. I didn't want any part of that. He tried to get several people to do that, and I wouldn't do it.
So what you're saying is he tried to get several people to accept checks?
Yes.
From him?
Yes.
And squirrel away the money?
Yes.
In the event he decided to go through this with this bankruptcy?
Absolutely.
Keep going.
I mean, he says in one statement that I was supposed to pay him back in 2 weeks. John and I continued to be friends. He had a surprise birthday party for his brother. I was invited.
Don't tell me. Just tell me about the money.
There was.
When you told him that you didn't want to participate in this scheme,
yes,
what did he say to you?
That he had a couple other people that were thinking about taking the money and putting it in a safety deposit box, storing his personal property so it wouldn't be auctioned off, which it has been.
What personal property did he want to store with you?
Pool tables, big screen TV, four-wheeler, living room furniture, kitchen furniture, I mean, bedroom suits. He had a 2-story house fully furnished. All that stuff has been auctioned off.
They've been auctioned off by whom?
An auctioneer.
At whose?
I guess at his request. I really don't know. I know that his house was for sale.
Did you have an auction?
Yes, ma'am, I did. To pay my debts and everything. The pool table, big screen TV, all that stuff was auctioned off to pay debts that I incurred during the divorce. I am in process of selling 2 pieces of property, a business piece of property, all my assets to pay my debts. I am not filing for bankruptcy. I am
well,
going to
it's
be
a little
paying.
more difficult now to file for bankruptcy,
yes, ma'am.
sir, because what you're suggesting to me is if you own a piece of property that's worth $1.5 million and you have a $790,000 mortgage,
yes, ma'am.
If you file for bankruptcy, you're not going to see any of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to see any of that money, if you pay off your creditors now, then you'll be able to maybe walk away with a couple $100,000.
No, ma'am, I'm not going to walk away with anything. My assets are about $2.2 million. I owe about $2.1, so time I pay auctioneers, you know, realtors, all that stuff.
So it doesn't pay for you, so you have assets of $2 million and you have debts of about the same, so you can't go into bankruptcy. That doesn't mean you're bankrupt, it just means that you have to go to work. Business people, you have mortgages, you have attorneys, you have all kinds of other things. And you're not unfamiliar with court.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you come to a court and you say, I made a loan to this lady. Put your hand down. I made a loan to this lady. I did not memorialize that loan in any way. This check is of no value.
Right.
Because she never endorsed it. I can take out my checkbook and write out a check to Petrie Hawkins Bird in the amount of $10,000 and say, I gave him this check.
Right.
He gave it back to me, and I gave him the 10 grand in cash. And this is some evidence that I gave him that money, right?
Right.
I didn't give you any money to him. No. So this is evidence of nothing.
Right.
The only evidence that it is, sir, is that she subpoenaed this bank account, which says at the time you allegedly wrote this check out to her, you didn't have sufficient money to cover the check in the bank.
Right.
Now, you did have another bank.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you could have written a check that would have cleared.
Right.
As a matter of fact, according to you, you did just that 3 days later. You didn't go to this bank, where you could have moved money around. You went to this bank, where you took out $1,800. All of this leaves me with a very uneasy feeling, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I have a very uneasy feeling, sir, the fact that you brought a witness that says that you told her all about this loan is of no value. So, Mr. Allen, it is possible, just possible, that you loaned her $1,800.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You understand my problem with your proof, sir?
I understand. I understand.
Are you sympathetic with me, sir?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
James White, fiancée Karen Rundell, owes for a loan to retain a lawyer. Karen says she gave her paycheck to James the entire time they lived together.
Mr. White, you and the defendant lived together, according to the complaint that I've read, for a period of time. And it is your claim that during that time you made a loan to her in the amount of $5,000 as a retainer for an attorney because she was having some legal problems. The defendant says that while she acknowledges that you wired the money into a joint bank account that you had for the attorney, that money was paid back because all that money that was in the joint bank account was put in by both of you subsequently. So the money was repaid.
In my opinion, yes, it was.
When did you start living together, Mr. White?
We started living together in April of '04.
How long had you known each other before you moved in together?
I knew of her approximately a year prior to that.
What does that mean?
Well, I was best friends with her brother and basically met her through her brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you moved in together in April of 2004, did you move into her place, your place, or a mutual place?
My place.
And, Your Honor, it was July of '04.
She's probably right, Mr. White.
Yeah, we had a birthday party for me in April, so yeah, then it was shortly after that. That's correct.
What was the financial arrangement when she moved into your house?
Financial arrangement? We really didn't establish any. I paid my bills and she paid her bills. She did insist that she put her check into my checking account. That didn't have anything to do with this particular item.
Just a second.
Yeah.
She put her paycheck into your checking account.
That's correct.
How much was your paycheck, Ms. Rundell?
$16.88 a month. And it was not a joint checking account. It was his checking account. I did not have access to that account in any way.
When did you make your first deposit into his checking account of $16.88?
I believe it would have been the month of July. I moved in roughly maybe the second week in July after we'd returned from vacation.
So let's be on the safe side. Let's say August.
That would be safe to say.
And how many months did you put your paycheck into that joint account?
Every month.
Until when?
Until January. My paychecks ended in January. Unemployment
August,
started.
September, October, November, December. 5 months.
And January.
And January.
Correct.
So it's 6 months, and that's easily verifiable by looking at your bank statement.
No, I don't agree with her putting that much money in there. She didn't have any credit, so she was using my bank to cash her checks. I wasn't aware that she was putting that money into my checking account every time.
This is a savings account statement right here. I could have put it in my savings had I been allowed to. This shows that
there was no money that went into this account until a tax return was automatically deposited in the month of March.
Do you have your bank statement, sir?
No, ma'am, I don't. I just have a check that I had wrote her. I didn't even know she had a savings account.
I don't care whether you knew she had a savings account or not, sir. You get a checking account statement every month.
Correct.
And every month you would see a deposit in there.
Right.
And that deposit would not be your deposit. I mean, we know what
Correct.
our deposits are. So she
Correct.
was depositing her check into your account. And that account would also show certain withdrawals if she was using your checking account as merely just a revolving door for her money. She was putting it in and cashing it.
She was putting her check into my checking account during the beginning of her stay at my place, and then we were using my check to write checks for all the bills.
It was not in name a joint account, but it was a joint account because that money was being used to pay joint bills.
Correct.
$16.88 per month.
Correct.
Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let us assume everything that you say is correct. That for 6 months you put in months.
Yes.
That comes to $10,128. Now, why did you need an attorney?
I had filed a police report as a mandatory reporter with the police department there locally where I live.
Is it a criminal matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the matter still pending?
Yes, ma'am.
And you retained a private attorney?
Correct.
And you discussed that with Mr. White?
Correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, I had no knowledge of her making this report.
I don't care about the substance of the case.
Okay.
The need for an attorney, something else.
Correct. We did discuss the need for an attorney, and it was important that she hired a good one for this situation.
So what did you say to her?
So we made arrangements to lend her $5,000 off my credit card.
That's a conclusion, sir.
We had talked about this and discussed we needed to retain $5,000 for this attorney, and we decided to take this off of a credit card that I have. I had no credit card debts at all. One of the qualities she talked about with me is that I wasn't in any debt. This was a special occasion that I needed to help her out on, so I decided to take a credit card, dump the credit card into my checking account, and give her a check on November 28th for $5,000. She told me when she got her income tax that she would give me half of it in one lump sum and make payments on the rest, and I was fine with that.
That is not true.
Well, tell me what the discussion was, Ms. Rundell.
The discussion, there was never a discussion around the credit card, just like there wasn't a discussion about how we were going to pay our bills when the money was lumped together in the checking account. What we had discussed on many different occasions was how we were going to use the money wisely. This chunk of money, which would have been around $6,000 for the tax return, what were we going to do with it?
You were going
many
to pay
different.
me half that.
I was talking. On many different occasions, we talked about different things. We talked about we would take a trip, but not too far. Didn't want to spend too much money. We talked about paying a big chunk of it to Bank One credit card, which the attorney came off of. We also talked about paying off his Washington State unemployment money that he still owed when I moved in was $4,000. It was down to $1,500. We wanted to eliminate that payment each month.
All right, let's get back to talking a little bit turkey, Ms. Rundell. It is your defense that you put in your check into the account and you were living like a married couple.
Correct.
And when you moved in together in July, it was your intention that your money be spent on household bills.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't need an attorney until what month?
October.
That's not a household bill. So that what it really did was cut your participation in the household bills in half. Because if you deposited $10,000 into this account to pay for your expenses during the course of that 6 months, madam, and you withdrew $5,000 out of it for your own personal use, then it's very possible that Mr. White is correct, that it was anticipated that you would be repaying this account when you got your tax return.
It wasn't repaying that account. The tax return coming in and was going to be used to pay bills wisely, not just on a credit card. This has nothing to do with paying back the credit card. It has to do with Mr. White and his continued abuse and harassment that has not stopped and will not stop.
It will stop when he gets his money back.
That's right.
Trust me, it won't stop.
There isn't a question in my mind that we probably wouldn't be here having this discussion if the two of you were still together. Because if you were still together, you would be continuing to contribute your $16.88 a month into this account. And eventually, this $5,000 would be paid back from payments to the credit card. But you're not together anymore. And Mr. White feels as if he's a fool because he had this outlay of money. and now you're not together anymore. You got your tax return back. There was discussion about paying back this, whatever, Capital One card or whatever it is. Some of the money that he gave you to pay your lawyer. You're still using the services of the lawyer, correct?
Correct.
Have you given the lawyer any more money?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're still living off of that $5,000. And he says, minimally, our agreement was that she was going to continue to put her $1,688 into the account so we could at least pay the lawyer back from that money. That stopped. Listen, you want him to leave you alone?
I do.
Pay him his money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Charlene Juergens says ex-boyfriend Colin Hager owes for a burglary, an assault, and a loan for bail.
All right, Ms. Juergens, you and the defendant used to have a romantic relationship, and according to your complaint, something happened a year ago that caused all kinds of problems. There was a freeway altercation between the two of you. You claim he assaulted you, then he was arrested. Then you decided that you would help him out by bailing him out. You obligated yourself to a bail bondsman. You claim he owes you money for that. You claim he owes you money for the assault. You claim he owes you money for going into your apartment at some time subsequent to this altercation and ruining your property. Mr. Hager has a whole different interpretation of what happened on the freeway about a year ago. He says that you actually stole money from him, that you're not obligated to the bail bondsman. He's obligated to the bail bondsman. He's going to have an opportunity to tell me, but you're no longer in love?
No.
Absolutely not.
You don't see each other anymore?
No way.
No.
Perfect. So, tell me what happened a year ago, Ms. Juergens.
I was in a violent relationship, so I moved out of my county to a different county, and he followed me down there. He learned where I lived.
Look at me. Don't look down there.
And he showed up and broke into my bathroom window. And he...
Were you home during all this time?
No, I was not home.
Just a second. You have any proof that he burglarized your house?
No. I have a police report of the robbery.
That you reported?
Yes, I did report it.
I can make a report. I can make a report that he burglarized my house.
He admitted he went through my bathroom window on the police report.
What date?
On November 25th of 2004, he admitted on his police report to the police in San Diego that he went through my bathroom window.
Okay, let me see that.
Didn't know.
Because November 25th, 2004 is the same day as this freeway altercation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see the report where he admits that.
I never even spoke to the police.
Shh. Just a second. Would you have her point out where he says window? Just circle it. Circle where he admits to the police that he went into your bathroom window.
He returned and climbed through my bathroom window.
That's you telling the police. You said he admitted to the police that he went through my bathroom window. I said, show me in the report.
Perhaps he admitted it to me.
Oh, all right. Would you get to the freeway, please? What happened on the freeway?
Well, I left my home because I didn't want any problems at my home. So I got in my car and I was traveling to my friend's house, and his car chased me, and I thought I should go right to the police department. And he followed me, and then he ran me off the road in front of an office, and the lady came out and dialed 911.
Keep going.
I couldn't call 911 because he was reaching in my window to steal my cell phone.
Keep going.
He hit my rental car, and then he sped off.
Keep going.
So basically, that's hit and run. The police arrived, took my statement, and they went to track him for the robbery and the damages to the car.
Keep going.
They found him, and they arrested him. He said he had a drink and a lost phone, and he was crying and upset.
Let's get to the bail, Ms. Juergens, please.
He was arrested in San Diego. He knew my home phone number, so he called collect, and he promised to pay for those collect calls.
Just a second. He called collect, and the operator said, I have Mr. Hager on the phone, and you said, I'll accept the charges.
Not the first time.
I don't care if it's the first time or the 100th time.
Eventually, I took the call.
And what happened when you took the call?
He was upset and crying and promising me that he would quit using drugs and he would go to AA and never drink again. Please help me get out. My family won't help me. My sister won't bail me out. Only you can help me out.
So?
I hung up on him, and I called my lawyer.
About what?
I said, my ex-boyfriend was arrested, and he's asking me to bail him out. And my attorney said, well, that's a great idea, because then you can bring him to us, and we can get a retainer. So bail him out, sign for his release.
You think I believe that? You think I believe what you just told me? You think Bird believes what you just told me? That you calling your lawyer and you said, my ex-boyfriend who beat me up, who I moved from one county to another county to get away from, just called me up to bail him out of jail because after he burglarized my house, assaulted me, chased me down the freeway, damaged my rental car, tried to steal my cell phone. After all of that, wants me to bail him out. And your lawyer said to you, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you do that and we can get a retainer from him and then we'll all be one happy family. So you went and bailed him out and put down with the bail bondsman how much?
I didn't put any monies down. I just signed for his release as my attorney told me to do so.
So they let him out because you promised to pay?
He promised.
So what are you suing him for bail for?
I have a promissory note that he promised to pay and he's never paid.
Well, what does that have to do with you? If you just said you're not obligated to pay the bail, what is the promise? You're suing on behalf of the bail bondsman?
The bail bondsman is suing me for the amount of $2,500 for
Show me that the bail bondsman is suing you. Well, they're not suing you. They said if this matter is not resolved, they're going to send this to a collection agency. Tell them to sue you. All right. Tell me this story about what happened, Miss Juergens, when you signed him out and took him to your lawyer. Tell me what happened.
My lawyers had him sign a retainer and they made $8,000 off of him.
Yes.
Then they called him and said, why haven't you paid that bail bond? It's going to collections. Pay it. And he promised.
Just a minute. Why would you take him to your lawyer?
Because
this man who you fled from one county to another to get away from, who just burglarized your house, assaulted you in your home, battered your car, almost killed you on a freeway, why would you take him to your lawyer?
To get him out of my county of San Diego and put him back in Orange County and let my lawyers handle it.
How many lawyers are there in Orange County?
About 1 million.
Right. And according to you, we paid your lawyer $8,000. I guarantee you, another half dozen of the 1 million lawyers in Orange County would have taken the case for $8,000. So why you chose to take him to your lawyer? The whole story is so bizarre. And if the story is so bizarre, and if it doesn't make sense, it didn't happen that way. All right, Mr. Hager, I've listened to the fairy tale on this side. You want to tell me your side of this fairy tale?
What really happened was she took off with my phone after coming to my hotel room.
Where was your hotel?
San Diego, Mission Bay.
What were you doing?
They're like getting ready to go to SeaWorld.
You were getting ready to go to SeaWorld?
Yeah.
Who were you going to SeaWorld with?
I was going to go to SeaWorld with my daughter.
Was your daughter with you?
No, she wasn't at the time.
Where does she live?
She lives down in Costa Mesa.
Listen, Mr. Hager,
Yeah.
you're always going to get tripped up on a little detail.
Yeah.
Because they make up the story as they're going. Do you understand?
Oh, I'm not making it up.
Oh. What were you doing in a hotel room, and what was she doing in your hotel room while you're getting ready to take your daughter to see the sea lions?
My daughter wasn't with me at the time. She was in Oceanside visiting her cousins. Charlene came down there because she had to see me.
Just a second. How did she know you were there, sir?
She called me.
On your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And you told her, I'm here. Did you tell her before or after you arrived?
After I arrived, I believe.
And she came to your hotel?
Yeah.
What's the name of the hotel?
I think it was the Hilton.
Paid by credit card or cash?
Credit card, I believe.
And you registered there in your own name?
Yes, yes.
Why do you hesitate?
Well, I have trouble with remembering details. Yes.
Well, I mean, it would be a simple thing. Somebody said, did you register there in your own name? I'd say, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, Do you know what I'm saying, Mr.
Yeah,
Hager?
I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's the little details that are going to trip you up if I don't get an accurate story from you.
Okay.
Or as close to accurate in this fantasy that I want to get.
All right.
So she came to your hotel.
Yes.
For what purpose?
To talk.
About what?
About a relationship, and also to try and talk me into like backing off on some of the accusations and charges I had against her.
For what?
Battery, robbery, all kinds of stuff.
Were there criminal charges pending against her at the time?
Yes.
Is that true, Ms. Juergens?
1, assault. Robbery is false.
So at the time you went to his hotel, there was a current criminal action pending against you?
Yes.
Well, at least I got you in his hotel. That's different from the bathroom in your house. Now, according to you, she left your hotel with your cell phone. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that's why you followed her on the freeway.
Yes.
Did you pay the bail bondsman, sir?
Yes, I paid him everything up to about $2,500.
Did you pay her lawyer any money?
Yeah, and quite a lot of money. In fact, I paid her bill for the lawyer too.
You did?
Oh yeah, I have the receipt right here.
How much did you pay her lawyer?
$1,250 on one count, and then I paid $2,500 on another count.
What made you so magnanimous?
Well, you know, she kept telling me that we could work things out, and she loved me and stuff like that.
Were those criminal charges subsequently dropped, Ms. Juergens?
No, they weren't.
Did that case go to trial?
It did not. I changed my not guilty plea.
To a guilty plea?
Yeah, after 11 months.
What was your sentence?
Time served.
How long had you been incarcerated?
48 days.
What was the nature of the assault that you pled guilty to?
He alleged that I scratched him and assaulted him and battered him.
Is that right, Mr. Hager?
Yeah, I have the report with the 5 stitches that I had, if you'd like to see that.
I would. So I am correct in the time sequence in this case.
Right.
Your allegations, Ms. Juergens, that he assaulted you after he crawled through the bathroom window, and that's when you took off down the freeway. That police report was made after you were under indictment for assault. Is that right?
I was fighting my alleged charge.
Correct. Well, the alleged charge. It's no longer an alleged charge. It's a conviction.
Now it is.
How come you didn't tell me you were in his hotel room until I got the information a different way?
You didn't ask, and he asked me to go. He invited me.
This is the same man, Ms. Juergens, who you fled from one county to another to escape. You went to his hotel room alone? Goodbye, Ms. Juergens. I'm totally disinterested in your lawsuit. You have no case. That's all. Goodbye.
Laura Schmidt says Cody and Brandy Mather owe for breach of contract regarding the sale of a weekend cabin.
Well, folks, I must tell you that I have been involved in the sale of property over the course of my lifetime, and this is one of the dumbest contracts that I have ever seen. And why 3 seemingly intelligent people would enter into such a ridiculous agreement is beyond me. And why the attorneys who represented you in the sale of this cabin would allow you to enter into this agreement. Maybe it's because you're young, but you're not that young. So this is what it's about, Bert. Listen, careful attention.
Got it.
Miss Schmitz had a cabin that she was very fond of. It was a vacation cabin. However, as fond as she was of the cabin, she decided to sell it. And she sold it to Mr. and Mrs. Mather, a lovely young couple who wanted a vacation place. Where is this cabin located?
Sasheen Lake, Washington.
Beautiful, on a lake. However, Miss Schmitz wasn't prepared to totally let go of this cabin, so she maintained, through a letter of intent with the Mathers, an agreement that twice a year she was going to be able to use the cabin for a week each. Once Memorial Day, where she had a big party every year, and once during the summer. These folks agreed to that condition. Now, the first week she used the cabin, according to her, everything was okay.
Yes.
But when she was planning the second weekend, Mr. and Mrs. Mather were having second thoughts already about this agreement. So they sort of, according to her, made it unpleasant. They didn't give her the key to the cabin. They said, we're not giving you a key. We'll unlock it, and when you leave, you lock it, which sort of, to her, made her a prisoner in the cabin because she couldn't leave for the whole week. She was afraid the cabin would be unlocked and unattended to. And then she found her stuff piled up because she sold the cabin furnished. Anyway, because of what she considered a breach of their contract, she hired an attorney to sort of get involved. So she is suing them now because she wants the attorney's fees that she expended to sort of make sure this weekend took place. And then when she went there, you flew there, is that right?
Yes, it's over 300 miles from where I live.
So did you fly, is my question?
Yes.
To make a long story short, she didn't stay. So she wants them to pay for her airfare and for some stuff of hers that she says was missing from the cabin. I don't know what could be missing since she sold it. I don't understand that. Mr. and Mrs. Mather say, well, they really weren't thrilled with her coming for the second weekend because they had heard via neighbors about the previous weekend, but they never told her that she couldn't come, and that when she was there previously, she broke some things, she took some things, and also for lawyers' fees because they had to get their lawyer involved to talk to her lawyer about this alleged breach of contract for the second week vacation. Did I sort of outline it pretty well?
Yes,
Yes. The idea was this sail with tentacles.
Laura. Your Honor, it was my idea because I was giving up thousands of dollars in a prepayment penalty so that they could get their own financing.
You bought the cabin when?
In '94.
And you bought
a
it?
20-year contract.
Which said?
$1,000 for every year and partial year that you end the contract, and it was an assumable contract.
Just a second. You're talking about a mortgage?
Correct, a contract.
Oh, just a second. It's not a contract. You're talking about you had a mortgage. That was an assumable mortgage.
With a prepayment penalty.
Oh, now I understand. We're talking apples
glad
and
you
oranges.
understand.
All right. She had an assumable mortgage, but if they wanted to pay off the mortgage, if she wanted to pay off the mortgage early, there was a penalty. If she got somebody to assume her mortgage on the cabin, then there wasn't a penalty. And you did or did not assume the mortgage?
We didn't assume the mortgage.
You didn't assume the mortgage so that it cost you $10,000 extra in your way of thinking to sell it to these people.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let me tell you this, Ms. Schmitz, that's a skewed way of thinking because all you have to do is find another prospective buyer who'd pay you an additional $10,000. But what you don't do is say, well, I'm going to sell it to you, but I want to be able to use it twice a year for free, forever, because that's dumb.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes. It's very...
It's not the last cabin in the world.
No.
So, how long have you been married?
8 years.
8 years, yeah.
How difficult is marriage?
It's hard.
What?
It's a lot of work.
And you love him?
Yes.
Right? You don't love her?
No.
You just signed on to be married to her
I know.
forever.
That's right.
And our family
Yeah.
warned us and warned us. I know.
Family.
My mom. I know. She knew.
You don't love her. She's a stranger. You don't know if she's a nut. You don't know what her friends are like. You don't know if she's a slob. You don't know, whatever. And you have married her for as long as you have that cabin. And I don't even know if this provision of 2 weeks goes with the sale of the cabin, does it?
No, it was a side.
So now I'm really going to try to help you. What's it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
Well, she told me on this.
What is it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
I would like to be paid for the money that I lost.
$4,000.
No, a lot more than $4,000. And today is not about the prepayment penalty.
Just a second. Who do you live with?
Myself.
You have to find something else to do with the next 5 years of your life other than sue these people. Because the contract that you entered into was dumb. The prepayment penalty for your mortgage had absolutely nothing to do with selling them this property with this 2-week provision. It's dumb, and you should finish it today. And you should allow me to help you. I'm prepared to help you. If you don't want me to help you, I don't think you're going to like the judgment today. Do we understand each other? You have to find another purpose for living other than this cabin. You have to let it go. Now, if it's going to cost $4,000 to let them out of this ridiculousness, it will give you the opportunity to spend the next 4 years someplace else, $1,000 a week, celebrating your birthday, Memorial Day, or whatever else you want to celebrate. But you have to let them out of this ridiculous bargain. Because otherwise, what they're going to do is, as much as they love the cabin, they're going to sell it to somebody, maybe even a relative, to get out from under this ridiculous commitment that they made. So it's my job to try to reduce the amount of litigious behavior we have in this country, not expand it. So I am prepared to help you, Ms. Schmitz. Do you want me to help you?
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract?
Your Honor, I'm out $4,000 in addition to the thousands I paid in the prepayment penalty.
They're not responsible for your prepayment penalty. That's your bag. You could have said to the realtor, one of the conditions of a purchaser is someone who is going to assume my mortgage so it won't cost me an additional $10,000. How much did you pay for the property, Ms. Schmitz?
$62,094.
How much did you sell it for?
$131.
So that's not bad, and you had the use and enjoyment of it, and you doubled your money. And even if you say, well, you had a prepayment penalty on your mortgage, take off $10,000, $121. So you doubled your money in 10 years. That's pretty good, right? So I'm going to ask you again, what is it going to cost to let these people out of this ridiculous contract that you both entered into?
Your Honor, I wasn't prepared to talk about the prepayment penalty today.
I just talked about the prepayment penalty. Did I make sense to you?
Yes.
You think it's going to make more sense to retain a lawyer, sue them, continue to sue them, because the lawyer's going to charge you money. I would charge you money at the rate of $500 an hour. And a lot more aggravation. So all I'm telling you is you have to find a life other than suing these people. It's over. And I am prepared to help you. I would take me up on my offer.
I will.
Good. So let's go again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract? Then I'm going to ask them if they're prepared for it.
Since the maximum I'm allowed to ask for of the $15,000 is $4,000, I guess that's the maximum I can receive.
Well, I'm going to let you amend your complaint to ask for $5 because that's the jurisdictional limit of this court.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to come to you. Ms. Schmitz is prepared to have me enter an order that says, upon the payment of $5,000, that she will declare null and void the requirement that she use the house for 2 weeks a year, and then you will both withdraw these claims. What do you think?
I agree.
That sounds good.
Sounds great.
Very smart.
Now we are.
Okay. You have a copy of the letter of intent that forms the basis of your lawsuit? You prepared to withdraw at this point your counterclaim?
We do.
It's going to be a very simple order that I will sign, you will sign. So I'm going to ask you to wait outside. Bird will call you. Yes.
Your Honor, in good faith, I offered them the use to negate that offer.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We don't want to use her home.
Absolutely. You don't want to use your home. You don't use their home. Go. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Good luck.
Thank you.
Melissa Kina says her daughter, Jamie Jaworski, owes for 2 unpaid loans. Jamie says her mother is conspiring with her ex-husband to ruin her life.
Miss Keenis, this is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
Does she have any siblings?
Yes, she does.
How many?
2, a brother and a sister. She's the oldest.
Is she a cute baby?
Gorgeous.
Is she a nice baby?
Yeah, very well-mannered.
Must have been, because you had 2 more.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting along so much anymore, and it is your claim that your daughter owes you the balance of 2 loans. One loan that you made to her several years ago in order to permit her to open up a business. That loan was for $10,000, and she's paid back a substantial part of that loan.
That's correct.
Over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. You were opening a beauty salon, and you were able to do that through the loan from your mom.
Exactly.
The second loan was for $2,000, and that was more recently, and that was to permit her to get an attorney because she was going through a divorce.
Correct.
With regard to that $2,000, your daughter says there was never any discussion of a loan, that you were ecstatic that she was divorcing the husband, and you agreed to help her secure an attorney so that she could
That's not true, Your Honor.
So that she could successfully conclude the divorce process. So let's deal with the first loan. When was that, Ms. Jaworski?
It would have been in August because I bought the business. I took possession
August of what year?
03.
And it was for $10,000?
Yes.
Was there supposed to be interest paid on the loan?
No.
Well, tell me how you were going to make this loan with no interest.
I knew that she had money left over from my grandmother's estate.
Put your hand down. What do you mean left over?
Well, my grandmother didn't take care of things how you're supposed to, and so all of the money that was left out of her estate went to the state for her care. But there was somehow this money left over that the state didn't
How
know
much
about.
money?
I knew of $10,000.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I asked my mom if I could borrow that $10,000 from her because I knew it was in the bank sitting there, and so that there wouldn't be interest or anything on it because we already had the money.
Well, there would be interest on it. If she loans you $10,000, then she's losing the interest on $10,000 for as long as it takes you to pay her back.
There was never any discussion of it.
But you do understand that.
I understand what you're saying, but in my mind, it wasn't that way.
I don't care
It
what was in your
sitting
mind.
there.
What I'm telling you is, if your mother takes the money out of the bank, then she's losing interest on it, so there is a loss. I also don't understand why she should make this loan to you without interest when you have a brother and a sister. Why would she just let you have it all yourself?
Because it was just going to be a loan. It was going to be paid back.
In what period of time?
There was no set period of time. Because when you open a business, you never know. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. And
Well,
so,
what happens if your business failed? You mean you weren't going to pay her back the money?
Well, no, I never intended not to pay her back the money.
But you just said most businesses fail within the first few years. What happens if your business failed?
Well, if my business failed, I would still have to pay her, but that was just to help me out. It was my mom helping me out. It was family helping family out.
But she didn't take that money out of the bank.
At the last minute, she had decided that she was going to pull it off of a credit card because she was nervous about the state finding out that she still had that money.
You mean she didn't think that they would find out about it if she kept it in the bank? Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. I'm listening to the story. So she wanted to take it off of her credit card rather than take it out of the bank because she was afraid that the state would find out.
Well, she was worried that
Go
they
ahead.
would find out and then she wouldn't have the money sitting there.
Keep going.
No, that's really what happened.
Keep going.
And so at the last minute, she decided to pull it with zero interest. And either way, it wouldn't matter. There
Zero
was no
interest for how long? Forever?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You're in business. You don't have zero interest forever, maybe for a year or two, but not forever.
I never saw any of the credit card information. I have no idea, to tell you the truth.
Well, let's understand this. You knew at the time that you accepted this loan that it was coming off of a credit card. Is that right, Ms. Jaworski?
At the last minute, yes.
I don't care if it's the last minute or the last second. You always could say no.
I know, but I'd already given
Listen to me. You always could say no.
Mm-hmm. And then if I had...
Who cares what happens if you had? If you had to go to work in somebody else's beauty parlor. Now, there was zero interest. And as a business person, you know that zero interest isn't forever. It's for a fixed period of time, which was for how long?
2 years.
That brings us up to 2005. As of August 2005, how much money did you give her?
I haven't split it out. These are just the statements that I have until then.
Well,
I didn't
Lisa,
add that up.
I don't do that. Math wasn't my strong suit.
Me either.
You either? Then you
No.
shouldn't be in business. But if you didn't pay her back in the 2-year period of time when there was zero interest on the credit card, you owe her whatever the interest is. End of discussion. Now, how much is on the credit card?
On the credit
Not with the $2,000 for the lawyer. I'm not dealing with that yet.
Well, it was all on one credit card, and the balance due on it when she stopped making the payment was $4,995.
Show me.
Ma'am, before you roll, can I say something else?
Well, this is not the last one. That's after I've made a payment, but
Can I see that bird, please?
I've made like the last 6 or 7 payments on it.
Now, you wanted to say something, Ms. Jaworski?
I do, because the interest situation.
Mm-hmm.
She had said when we put it on that credit card that if the interest came due, that she would either take the money out of the estate and put it back on there. So I would never, the agreement was never any interest. It really wasn't.
Listen to me. You knew at the time she was taking out an interest-free loan for 2 years in order to cover this loan that she was making for you. You had 2 years to pay her back. You didn't. Then interest develops, and whether she takes the money out of the bank and loses interest, you still have to pay. Now tell me about the $2,000 for the lawyer.
When we were going through the divorce, or when Chris and
When
I-
was that?
That would have been in 2000, I believe, 5.
Now, by 2005, we were starting to get some interest on this loan.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, well, so then we're going through our divorce, and I didn't have the money to retain a lawyer. At first, we were just going to do it ourselves. And I was telling her that he was going to try to get custody of the children from me, and that I needed to retain a lawyer. And what I don't understand is she hated...
Just don't tell me anything other than what happened. Not what you don't understand, not what you do understand. Not interested in what you understood. Tell me what happened. Now, you were crying to your mother that your ex-husband was going to try to get custody of the children, and you couldn't afford a lawyer. You didn't have any money.
Basically. And
Right.
she said not to worry
And?
about it, that she would take care of it. And she sent me 2 checks.
From where?
From her credit card.
And?
And she wasn't worried about me paying her back. I didn't know how I was going to end up financially after the divorce.
How did you end up financially after the divorce?
I ended up giving him basically everything. I got $20,000 equity out of the house, of which I gave her a check for $4,000.
You did give her a big check.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got $20,000 from the sale of the house, why didn't you pay her back everything that you owed her?
Because I was buying another house, and I was trying to have a little nest egg in case when you're employed by yourself, it's always good to have a little money back up.
Well, but if the only nest egg your mother had was the $10,000 she had of your grandmother's money, why should you have a nest egg and not her?
I don't know. I've really thought about it that way.
But isn't that a nice way to think about it, Miss Jaworski? I mean, how old are you?
I'm 37.
And how old is your mother?
My mom must be 57.
Yesterday.
So if somebody has to sort of struggle to put together a nest egg, isn't it easier for you, who's starting a new business, to put together a nest egg than your mother, who's 57? Especially since you spent the money. So it's real nice of you to want to have a nest egg all by yourself. But if what you're suggesting is that your mother said, well, if you don't pay the note back in the 2 years, that it's interest-free, you'll take the money out of your nest egg.
No, that wasn't the way it is. I think.
Well,
you're
that's what you just
misinterpreting-
told me.
But
I'm just following what you told me.
I think you're misinterpreting it.
No, that's what you told me.
No, it's not.
Does that sound what you just told me?
Sounds like what she told you.
That she would take the money out of her nest egg and pay off the credit card and wait for you to finish putting your nest egg together so you would pay her. Duh.
If you have a business and you don't have operating capital and you don't have money to buy and bring things in and out, you can't run a business. And so that's what I used the other part of that money for. Was
That's not what you just told me.
It is. I had it.
No,
in a
that's
little...
not what you just told me.
I had it set aside so if something happened with
You
the business
just-
that I could keep it going.
That's your nest egg.
Well, I had to because if
You
I
owe your
lose,
mother
if I-
$4,000.
If I lose the shop,
You owe your mother $4,000. And I gather that the reason she's here is because you stopped paying her, according to your mother, because you had an estranged relationship for a while. Why, I don't know.
because she's seeing my ex-husband.
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say.
That's not true. I'm seeing my grandchildren.
That's
and her
what you say.
ex-husband.
I think that makes it very convenient for you, Miss Jaworski,
I think-
because she wasn't seeing her grandchildren, and she wrote a letter, according to her,
Correct.
to her grandson when he was at his father's house, and his father called her and said, if you want to see the boys, you can see them, and she's been seeing them at your ex-husband's house, which ticked you off. So you stopped paying the loan. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000.
Thank you very
That's all.
much.
Rhonda Vito is suing the mother of her son's friend, Anna Betancourt, for the cost to fix a dirt bike. Rhonda claims Anna's son, 17-year-old Sean, rode her son's bike without permission and wrecked it.
Miss Vito, which of these 2 young men is your son?
Anthony, the first one.
How old are you, Anthony?
16,
How tall are you?
6'1".
What do you feed him?
Pasta.
Pasta. Which one of these 2 young men is
Sean.
am I going to grill today?
Sean.
Ms. Betancourt, and this is your son, whose name is Sean?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Vito, it is your complaint that Ms. Betancourt's son drove your son's dirt bike without permission, got into an accident, and damaged the bike. You believe Mrs. Betancourt should be responsible for fixing the bike. Ms. Betancourt said that her son did have permission to ride the bike, that he was injured, that you're just lucky she's not suing you for the injuries because he broke an ankle. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your son gave her son permission to ride the bike, so that's it. Shouldn't be here. Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony, when were you riding the bike when it was running? What date was the last date before this incident? You have to look down at a piece of paper?
No.
What date?
May 8th.
And where were you on May 8th?
We were at a track in Brockton. riding.
And is it a track where they just have dirt bikes?
Yes.
Who was there?
Myself, Nick.
You have to speak up. You hear I'm speaking? I'm projecting. You can hear me, right?
Myself, Nick, and Dennis.
Dennis, that would be you.
Yes, Your Honor.
But Sean wasn't there.
No.
This was after school, or there was no school on that day?
It was after school.
What time?
About like 3:30 to 5:30.
Okay. Now, you're going to tell me what happened.
Myself, Nick, and Dennis were riding. My bike wasn't working right, so we drove it out to my other friend's house. I tried fixing it, but it didn't work, and Sean asked to ride it.
Okay. Now, Sean was at your other friend's house?
Yes.
They were just hanging out?
Yes.
So far, are we correct, Sean?
Yes.
So up to this point, our stories are in sync, right? Sean asked if he could ride the bike.
Yes, and me and Nick said no, and I was putting the tools away, and he got on the bike and with no helmet and just left.
Why did you say no?
Because the bike wasn't working properly.
Is that the reason you left the track?
Yes.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
No, Your Honor.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had your own bike?
Yes.
He's petrified. All right, so he got on the bike without a helmet and took off. Go ahead.
About 5 minutes after I saw him, I tried waving him over, and he kept going.
Well, what was he going around in a circle?
Yeah, like he went around the block. I saw him, I waved him over. He didn't come over. And about 10 minutes later, he came back with a broken ankle.
By the way, state of Massachusetts, are you required to ride with a helmet?
Yes.
You're also 16, Sean?
17.
17? So you're older than he is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I start eating more pasta.
I don't like pasta.
Okay, let me hear your version. You're at your friend's house. He comes by with his bike. Go ahead.
He came by with his bike. They were fixing it. Dennis rode the bike.
Talk back. Came by and they were fixing it.
Yes.
Were you outside when they were fixing it?
No, I shut up there. I got out after they were done fixing it, and I came out and...
Well, how did you know they were fixing it?
Because they told me that after.
After what?
I crashed.
After the crash?
Yeah.
Not before?
No.
So you showed up after they had been fooling around with the bike?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then Dennis was riding it, and then when he stopped riding it, I asked if I could ride it. He said no. I asked him again. He said no, and then I just hopped on the bike and rode it. Because I rode it again, so I didn't really think it was a big deal.
Did you tell that to your mother?
No.
No, ma'am.
He didn't tell that to you?
No, ma'am.
He had an epiphany here. Right?
Yeah.
Sean, you had an epiphany here, right? You know what that word means? Change of heart. You had an enlightenment. So this is the first time your mother's hearing that he said, no, you can't ride the bike. Now, do you think that if your mother knew that you didn't have permission to ride this bike, that we would be here today? You stole the bike, right? If you ask the owner of a bike, a car, something, can I use your vehicle? And they say, no, you can't use it. Oh, I'm going to use it anyway. Go get rid of your tools. While you're getting rid of your tools, I'll get on the bike and ride it. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself?
I don't know.
Miss Betancourt, you changed your mind? Your son rode the bike without permission. He actually stole it. He was told he couldn't drive it. You think he's responsible for the damage it caused?
But, Your Honor, I also have medical bills that my insurance is not covering.
Well, let me ask you this question, Miss Betancourt. Let's say your son was walking down the street on his way home, and he saw a red Corvette convertible. And he got into the car, because the keys were there, got into the car, and he took off with the car. And he crashed it. And he got hurt. You think that the owner of that car would be responsible for your medical bills?
No, but also what I didn't finish is that what they're charging me, they're also charging me for part that was fixed that had nothing to do with the accident. And Dennis is the one who took the bike to the shop. And some of the chains and the stuff was worn out during all the periods that they were riding the bikes. So it had nothing to do with the accident.
Well, how much do you believe you are responsible for of the bills that they had?
If we take that out, it would be $355.78.
How much did it cost you to fix the bike?
$631.10.
But the bike wasn't working before he got on the bike properly.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it was going to have to go in to be fixed, because the reason you didn't want him to ride the bike is because it wasn't working properly.
Yes.
So at least part of that $631 that it cost you to fix the bike was as a result of wear and tear on the bike, or something that had absolutely no relation to the accident. So what has to do with the accident, Anthony?
I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, she knows. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $355.78. Good. Truth will out. Aren't you glad I didn't have to call on you?
No.
That's all. Thank you.
Jody Marone is suing her ex-boyfriend, Thomas Matson, for a loan to reinstate his driver's license. Jody says Thomas has 9 DUIs.
He used to be your boyfriend. It's your claim that he owes you some money. You paid off some fees for him, took out a loan to do it. He says it was very nice of you, but he told you that he couldn't pay you back, and it was a gift, right?
Right.
How old are you?
31.
What do you do for a living?
Work at a sawmill.
How long have you worked there?
A year and a half.
How much do you earn?
$13.50. Not very much.
Try to keep your voice up. I'm old.
Not very much.
$13.50 an hour.
Yes.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Marone?
I'm a registered nurse.
Who do you live with?
Me and my children.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
Aside from you, who supports your children?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
From your work?
Yes.
You have any children, Mr. Matson?
Yes.
How many?
1.
Who supports that child?
Me and her.
So you have a child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
She'll be 2 August 17th.
He doesn't pay me anything.
You don't live together?
No.
Is there a court order of support?
Yes.
How much?
It's almost $600 a month. It's just started.
I haven't received anything.
Just a second. When did it start?
I just got served the papers a few weeks ago.
Prior to that, how much were you giving Miss Marone for your support of your child?
When we were split up?
Yes.
Nothing.
And how long were you split up?
It's been like 4.5, 5 months.
How do you expect your daughter to eat?
He says that I'll take care of it.
How did you expect her to eat if you weren't giving her any money?
I had enough money to live myself.
Who cares? If you don't have enough money to live yourself, you don't make another baby.
Exactly.
So you answered my question, and my question was, she supports her 3 children, and you pay no support, at least for the last 6 months.
I talked to an attorney, and the attorney told me not to give her nothing until it was court ordered.
So your attorney said to you, you don't have any responsibility towards this child until a court tells you you have responsibility. Is that right?
They'll determine.
No, just a second. According to you, the thrust of what your attorney said to you was, you don't have any responsibility to pay support for your child until a court tells you you have responsibility. Right?
There will be back support.
You've been working at the sawmill for a year.
Year and a half.
Who owns the sawmill?
Dave LePage.
Mr. LePage says to you, we're going to pay everybody once a month, and you work for your month. And then he says to you, you know what? I may be going into bankruptcy. I'm not paying you. Let a court tell me that I owe you money. And in case I don't go into bankruptcy, it would be wise for you to continue working. And maybe next month I'll pay you. Next month comes around, he says, you know what? I'm still not going to pay you. How are you supposed to take care of yourself?
I don't know.
Your daughter is 2. She shouldn't have to think about how she's going to take care of herself, sir. That's the job of her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Both parents. Now, what bills did she pay that you couldn't pay? Take a deep breath. Look at me. What bills did she pay that you couldn't pay?
She paid my fines and my reinstatement.
What fines?
DWI fines.
So you have an alcohol problem.
Yes.
And how many tickets have you gotten for DUI? And how much did she have to take out in order to pay off those fines to keep you behind out of jail?
I think it was around $4,000.
So this is what I have, Mr. Matson. I have somebody who doesn't pay child support. I have somebody who has 3 children who works and supports her children. And I have somebody who's an alcoholic who can't cover his own fines, but who thrusts that responsibility onto the providing parent. What do you think I should do with that?
I didn't ask her to pay him.
You mean the figure just came from the DUI fairy? The information on how to get this accomplished came from some crystal ball, from some seance that she had?
She wanted me to have my driver's license so I wouldn't get in any further trouble.
You know what the problem is? You know what I'm going to tell you what the problem is. She appears to be a rather intelligent woman. You know, she has a credible profession, right?
Yes.
And she picked this loser. Not only did she pick this loser, she picked this loser and had a child with him, thereby continuing this gene pool that's getting us all into trouble in this country. You understand from gene pools, don't you? You're a nurse. Figure it out. Was he a drunk when you met him?
Not when I met him. He drank, but...
You know, but for the fact that they're his fines, they're his DUIs, it's part of his punishment, you almost deserve it. You know that.
Yeah.
The only problem is you have 2 other children, and you brought this loser into your household and into your family with 2 other children.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. Don't do it again. How much does he owe you?
$3104.76.
Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Ted Kelly is suing his granddaughter's friend, 18-year-old Nicholas Rundy, for crashing his car while driving intoxicated. Nicholas says the accident wasn't his fault.
Mr. Kelly, this is your...
granddaughter.
And you own a car?
Yes.
You let your granddaughter use the car?
Yes.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 2002 Pontiac Grand Am.
You're a very, very good grandpa.
Yeah, I try to be.
How many grandchildren do you have?
4.
Is this the oldest?
Yes.
You don't play favorites, do you?
Try not to.
Try not. I know. Well, Mr. Rundy over here wrecked your car. And he says, it's not my fault. Somebody else's fault.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you wreck Mr. Kelly's car?
April 4th, I do believe.
At what time of the day or evening did you wreck his car?
Around 10 o'clock at night.
Where had you been earlier that evening?
Over at Alicia's house.
How many people were at Alicia's house?
Her, myself, Philip, and 2 of my friends.
So 1 girl.
1 girl.
And 4 boys.
4 boys.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ted Kelly claims his granddaughter's friend, 18-year-old Nicholas Rundy, wrecked his car during a night of drinking. Nicholas says Ted's granddaughter is also to blame.
Now, how old is Alicia?
18.
And who does she live with?
By herself.
By herself?
Mm-hmm.
What time did you get there?
8 o'clock, probably. She called Philip's cell phone to have us come over just to hang out.
Don't offer me any information that I didn't ask for, Mr. Rundy.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get all the information I need. At what time did you take Mr. Kelly's car?
9:30 or so.
How much had you been drinking?
A couple glasses of mixed drink.
Of what?
Rum, I do believe.
Who mixed them?
We did.
Who's we?
Me and Philip and everybody. They were pouring our own drinks.
Who mixed your drink?
Me.
And who mixed your second drink?
Myself.
And if you had a third drink, who would have mixed your third drink?
Myself.
Where did you get the mixers from?
We didn't have any mixers. We were just pouring them from the bottle.
Well, then that's not a mixed drink, unless you were mixing scotch and rye, and you weren't mixing alcohol, were you?
No.
Because that would have been really dumb.
Right.
So were you having straight drinks or mixed drinks?
Straight drinks.
So you had a few straight drinks, and you took the car about 9 o'clock at night. Who was in the car with you when you took it?
Philip.
And at what point did the car get wrecked?
Around 9:45, I do believe.
Did you receive any sort of citation that day from the police department?
No, ma'am.
Did the police arrive at the scene?
Yes.
Did they give you a breathalyzer test?
No.
Did they take you to a hospital?
No. They just questioned me about the car and arrested me for public intoxication.
So you didn't get a citation, you got arrested?
Yeah.
So if you got arrested for public intoxication, you must have been really drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
My father now.
Did your mother throw you out?
No, I had to move.
Why?
Wasn't doing the right thing in Indiana.
Is that where your mother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
So your mother had enough of you move to?
Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Who does your father live with?
Himself and me and my brother.
And what are you doing in Florida now?
About to go to school and just looking for a job
right now you're doing nothing?
Yeah.
About to go to school, about to get a job, right now you're doing nothing?
Yeah, I just moved down there.
Now, Mr. Rundy, you are going to explain to me, sir, why this accident was not your fault. Or please pay careful attention, because in case I miss something, I really want somebody to give me a poke to be able to say, you missed it, you know, you missed the important part.
I'm here for you.
Thank you.
All right.
We're both all ears, Mr. Rundy.
I'm not trying to say that it's not my fault.
Well, that's what you said in the answer. You said, let me tell you what you said in the
Okay.
answer, Mr. Rundy,
Okay.
which caused me to do this torturing routine that I did for the last 5 minutes.
Right.
Alicia, the other 18-year-old idiot who was drinking that night with 4 guys, she's the reason why I had to go to jail. That's what you wrote here.
I didn't.
And had to take classes for first-time offenders. Did you have to take classes for
Yes,
first-time
I did.
offenders? I was surprised to learn that Mr. Kelly is suing me. Alicia should pay her grandfather for the money he is asking. Mr. Kelly is suing the wrong person. That's what you wrote. So now what you're telling me is that was all a big mistake?
No, it's not a big mistake. I feel she should have some responsibility in her car. I know what I did was wrong, and I know that, but
She wasn't in the car.
she gave me the keys to her car, though.
Yeah.
So where's the responsibility come in at?
How much do you weigh?
180?
You think that she could carry you, put you in the car, take your hand, put the key in the ignition,
I have no
turn it
idea.
on? You don't think she could do that, do you?
No.
Only you could do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the one who poured your own alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
You're the one who put the glass to your lips and guzzled it down.
Yes, ma'am.
You're the one that took your behind and put it behind the wheel of a car where you could have killed somebody.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the one who's going to pay for Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, were you able to have the car fixed?
Yes, I was.
And how much did it cost you, Mr. Kelly?
Over $5,000.
You have the bill for it?
Yes.
Can I see it, please? Mr. Kelly, your granddaughter, Alicia, I must tell you, I believe, did not act responsibly that evening. That doesn't mean that he's off the hook. That just means that if I were you, I wouldn't give her back the car. Did you give her back the car?
Yes, after I got it fixed.
That was a big mistake. I wouldn't have given her back the car. She behaved irresponsibly. You understand that, don't you?
Yes.
Taking advantage of your grandfather. I wouldn't let you take advantage of me. I'll tell you that right now. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. Mr. Rundy, you better get busy and get back to Florida. Hurry up, hustle, get a job. Hustle, hustle, bustle. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn quay lại channel của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ với mọi người đó là gấp một con hổ màu vàng. Để gấp một con hổ vàng tông màu hôm nay tất nhiên ta sẽ sử dụng đó là màu vàng. Dụng cụ sẽ là thuốc, bút chì, kéo, bút màu, bút lông và hồ dán. Giờ mình sẽ tay vào làm này. Là 9 cm. Mở ra dùng thuốc kỵ nó, gọt nó vào này. Theo phần dư nó đi này. biến
chó mình ơi, chó nhấu. Cái này mơ ở trời ngay cả một
gồm nó vàng này. Tiếp theo làm chân tay nó. Cái phần dư đi. Theo rồi. Mất nó đều màu xanh.
anh nói như thế nào chán em phải lúc bảo cái phương trào được thưởng này được kéo của mình không ta cứ lỗi nó nói được thế để nói thì nói đến nó khổ mạnh cứ về ra đi về đến trong đi nhắn chân vào lớn đi ra thì nó lại tập tí nữa em lại bờm với kéo đi xuân cười đây 7 giờ tối qua bố em kéo phương trào nó hẳn đấy đúng rồi lúc em nó một kiểu lúc em đéo tập trung vào khi mà đi là em nói lúc em nói đéo tập trung vào em hỏi lại nó trả lời đây máu lúc đầu đấy đến qua lại lên em không tập trung vào đang thay đổi đang thay đổi đang nói nhiều nhiều em biết gì hỏi lại em biết để đỡ rồi ra em kéo lên em thôi ta kéo được phải kéo không đưa ra
Cái bộ rô này. Như vậy hoàn thành xong con hổ vàng rồi. Nếu các bạn thấy hay cho mình một like, share, đăng ký kênh nhé. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn chị mình xem.